Have fun shopping for groceries.
Okay, ready?
Hello, Lee.
Hi, Wayne. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Okay. Hello, Will. Can you hear me?
Hi, yes.
Ah, great. Okay, David, is everybody here?
Looks like everybody's here from the city. I see that we have Naomi, Tim, and Jerome. And as far as the commission members, it looks like you've got everybody on.
Great, great. And is presenter here for the first issue?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. I think we can go ahead now. With that, I will call to order the November 23rd, 2021 meeting of the City of Reading Planning Commission. This is our regularly scheduled meeting for the month of November. The first item on our agenda is the acceptance of the revised November 2021 Planning Commission agenda as sent out this afternoon. Do I hear a motion to accept?
Lee Olson moves to accept.
Okay, and a second?
Bob Conklin will second.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. Okay, opposed? Okay, we have an agenda. Fantastic. First item on the agenda is 755 Heaster Lane. A land development, preliminary final minor land development for a self-storage facility at 755 Heaster Lane. And I will let Mr. Anstein, hopefully I pronounced your name correctly,
Yep, that's fine.
go ahead and make his presentation.
Sure. All right. Thanks for having us tonight. My name is Byron Anstein. I have my partner Pete Stas, who's also on the call there. The company is Storage First, and basically, as you guys have probably already read through some of the stuff, the property is currently an existing 36,000 square foot building on about 2.5 acres. So the plan for us is to take the existing building and infrastructure, what's already there, and convert that over to self-storage. Obviously, working with Naomi and David, as we've sort of gone through the process and figured this out, I had to come in here for the land development for the change of use, because the building was previously used for retail. The current owner, Sweet Streets, sort of, I guess, used it as storage, semi-warehouse, but it wasn't open to the public. So we've put our application in for that, and we're working through that, and hope to have building permits submitted next month sometime. And then I did get the review letter from Jerome, which a lot of it is just going through it. It's stuff that we're aware of and would be working through. So I don't know if typically in your meetings, if you guys like to go through the review letters, I'm happy to answer questions, or excuse me, how you guys like to typically do things, but happy to answer questions and look for your approval then for us to be able to move forward with the change of use.
In this case, we usually like Jerome to David and Jerome to highlight their interactions with you and highlight the review letters, what they are most concerned with.
Okay.
We don't normally go everything over point by point, or else
Sure.
our meetings would run to 1 a.m. like they used to.
Yep. Okay. Understood. So
we'll start with David and with his comments.
Yeah, I'll just make a brief comment and then turn it to Jerome to address any items in the review letter that should be highlighted. But as far as this, our interactions, we've been working with Mr. Anstein for some time now to introduce him to the process. And as far as zoning is concerned, it does not appear that this is going to be requiring any action by the zoning hearing board. So it's really the main items are going to be addressed here at the land development level. And with that, I turn it to Jerome to highlight any comments from his letter.
We get the site plan up by chance?
I'll try to share that up on screen here, and I'm pulling it up now. Can you see it?
Yes, we can. So in summary on this project, you can see that the first area of concern we had was with site accessibility to it. And you'll see that there's a perimeter fence that's located around the property. This would pretty much either block off or limit site accessibility on Heaster's Lane. There'll be site accessibility along the common, let's call it the common driveway or common access point side, which is permissible as well, which then comes into another level of security and then allows people to come into the site. There is an area for truck parking. There is an area for parking also. Just from the accessibility standpoint, it seems like eliminating the access point along Heaster's Lane is substantial, and for the proposed in a proposed driveway, I mean, it's acceptable in its current location. The fencing along the front of the property, I guess I'll just ask the question is like, why is there a need for security fencing to get into the facility? Then there's a building, and then there's internal, probably lockers or storage areas inside.
Sure. So first thing off, yeah, so what I was proposing is an 8-foot high black fence, most likely chain link fence, which I've had at other facilities because the black, it blends right in. You can see through it. But with renting self-storage, people want to have their belongings. They want to know they're secure. Long story short, with the parking lot, we're probably going to do twofold of, because we previously talked with David and Naomi about this, is that in the meantime, we'll probably have some parking in there for vehicles and or outdoor storage like that. But then also too is future development of that parking lot. And basically, again, just the mentality of a self-storage user, they want to know their items are secure. They don't want people roaming around, walking around the building, even though there's a separate door to get inside. So it's all about really security that way. And again, I'll just go back to the fencing part there. It'd be black, blends right in. And then with the up on the Heaster's Lane access there, I wouldn't necessarily cut it off. I would put the fence there, but I would have a gate there. So if almost call it from emergency access standpoint, that's why I put there, note there, fence gate there. So it would be closed off, but that it could be open. But from daily traffic, with talking to my security team that I use, who does the gate access and all that stuff, it was their recommendation to come in from the side this way. You're going to get better traffic flow for people coming in to do that, as opposed to pulling in and then you got to make a turn right away. As soon as you hit those landscape islands, you're going to have to turn then right or left to go to a parking spot, versus being able to pull in and then pull right up with your truck or car to unload your belongings. So that was sort of the rationale behind that.
That was one area of concern. And again, if you're going to have a perimeter fence along the front and blocking off a point of ingress and egress, you really can't use it because your car or your truck is going to be sticking out on the Heaster's Lane.
Oh yeah, so that's what I was saying. That would only be there for, like, God forbid, if a fire came through, like a safety gate to get in there. But for use, that wouldn't be restricted. So it would only be coming out the common drive lane, which I think you had in there in your review letter. We do have an easement that's been recorded years ago with the property for that access.
Okay, Jerome, if you don't mind, this is Tim Kroll from Public Works. May I ask a question at this point? I'm
Sure.
still unclear as to how you will achieve access to this lot. If what you just described is the main access, the current access from the driveway will only serve as emergency, then the primary access is the primary access. How are you going to get into the site?
Through the common drive on the right side.
Well, okay, so you say common drive, so you're sharing that drive with
There-
Heaster's
there-
Lanes?
Yes, and there we have access to that. There already currently is pavement, and that's the way it's already there. And then
But I mean, you have you have to share legal access. There has to be
yes,
a
we have
private road
we have
for
an
you to
easement
access
for
that.
Yes, we do.
Okay, we're going to need to see something there because, yeah, if that's a shared driveway, that we're going to need to have evidence that that is the case.
Yeah, no, as I said, there's an easement for that access to and from on both spots there.
How high is the security fence?
I was proposing 8 feet.
Okay.
And then obviously we would be doing a separate fence permit and comply with whatever the regulations are with that fence permitting process.
Yeah, that's part 13 of the zoning ordinance.
And just to respond to that, the ordinance does allow in the manufacturing commercial district for fences to go over the general max of 6 feet to go up to 8 feet. there's a provision in place for that, but anything over 8 feet would require a variance on the height.
Yeah, it would not be any higher than 8 feet.
You had mentioned also that there's going to be other potential uses on the property. It might make sense to identify what those potential uses are here versus
Yeah,
having to come back.
No, I mean, that's what I was just saying. So basically the parking lot is, the thought is to have is future development. So in the meantime, part of self-storage is people parking a vehicle or truck, short-term, could be long-term, but basically have that use there, which is already, it's a parking lot. So no real change in that. And then, but if we do then want to develop that in the future, then the idea would be to come back through, which would be again, land development, probably not a minor, because then we'd have to go through the full land development process. So really our goal is to get started with the building to be able to have it sort of turnkey and get working in there to be able to then start renting those units out, and then figuring we can get a plan together for down the road.
So this will be a location, then this is where I want to go park my RV and rent that space out. This is where I want to park my boat.
You could, yep, yeah, just because like I said, again, with it self-storage, with being the by right and already having it being a parking lot, that was sort of, what we found to be under what would already be work for that use.
Okay. When you bring in your plan, make sure you're all inclusive of what you plan on storing in the exterior component of the site, so we can provide whatever comments are necessary.
Sure.
That's pretty much what I have for now.
Okay. Do any of the commissioners have any comments on this plan?
Yes, this is the, I'm looking at my agenda, and I see that this is a preliminary / final minor land development for self-storage facility. And I see things like landscape plan. I don't see anything that's a parking lot layout. I don't see any soil erosion and sedimentation control. I am not comfortable in even giving this a preliminary review and approval until we see more documentation.
May I jump in? Basically with the plan we provide, because we're doing a change of use, everything's already existing. We're not doing any site work. We're going to be restriping where the parking lot is, because the parking lot already exists. So everything is going to be internal with inside the building. Other than the fence on the outside, which is its own separate permit, everything you see there as in its current state is going to remain. So that's why, again, this is only just, we're talking about the change of use for the existing building. So there's no E&S. We already have sewer. We already have water in the building. Those are all these things. That's what made it advantageous for us to try to pursue this property here, because there's all this stuff is in place. So we don't have to do the E&S. We don't have to do all those other things with the normal development plan.
Some of the other things that Lee had brought up, the parking, the striping, the
That's
landscaping, the lighting, yeah, all those have to be provided on the plan, and the plan has to be drawn to a scale.
That is also scaled.
No, well, I mean by an engineer, architect.
Well, this is what I guess, and I apologize, and then it's my misunderstanding, I guess, in trying to work with Naomi, because again, we're only changing the use of the building, and that's where I guess it's again, trying to sort of get a handle on this stuff, because again, we're only using the building there. So, I mean, we did some landscaping. We showed what we would be proposing on that on a separate plan there. I mean, if you want a full, this is what's going to turn out to be is a 3 to 6 month process, I guess. And that's where we're looking at, hey, we're just trying to readapt the building in its current state, use the parking lot lighting that's already there, which I was showing on that plan, and use everything that's already in this property.
Well, this is a hand-drawn plan, and this is fine for a sketch plan.
And I again apologize if the misunderstanding there, because what Naomi said is find the old recorded plan and then go off of that. And so I apologize then if this isn't up to snuff then for that. So it doesn't say, and maybe I missed it in there, where that it has to be exactly from a engineered, but it's to scale.
The easiest thing I would recommend for you to do is track down who did the previous plan, have them
The
modify it.
40-year-old plan.
If I could just interject right here, the eventual final plan, and since this is being submitted as a land development plan, the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code requires there be a certificate of accuracy, and only a registered professional engineer or a registered land surveyor in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania can sign off on that. So that it's the MPC, the Municipalities Planning Code, that really dictates that that be done. Unless, are you an engineer or a surveyor
No.
or whoever is preparing this?
Yeah.
This is what Jerome is alluding to.
Gotcha. Well, then I apologize then for the misunderstanding. And then, just because, again, and I guess, and this is all part of it, sounds like from talking with Naomi and David, is that this is sort of a new process in trying to work through this. Again, it's a by right use, I guess, and that's where I guess I was confused on my end then.
Yeah, and I want to clarify something. In January or February of this year, we did adopt provisions that were to provide an expedited review process. And one of those was a minor land development plan, and which involved the revised plan of record or change of use. We had then allowed the provisions to combine a preliminary/final plan, provided it meets the final plan application requirements. So that's where maybe a little bit of the confusion got in place, but we do allow for the preliminary/final plan in a process such as this.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, I guess just because of the way, obviously, the world is with shortcomings of scheduling, to do this, I guess the exact way you got, I mean, we're going to be pushing out, unfortunately, I'd say 3-4 months, because you're wanting, even though it's minor, in my eyes, I see it as, well, this is a more than really a minor land development of just going in there, asking for a change of use, which is already allowed for the zone, and going through this and making upgrades to the properties. I mean, it's a vacant building sitting there with overgrown landscaping, pavement that's buckling, and I'm trying to improve this. And
But you see our dilemma, you cannot record a plan in this shape.
And that's where I guess what I undertook from, I guess, previous discussions is that take the old recorded plan, and then we were going to make changes to that old recorded plan, and then that would be re-recorded.
Yeah, and we've done that in the past for a couple of projects. But it was the same surveyor or engineer who did the modifications and then put the new notes on the plan.
Understood. Okay. Yeah, because what we pulled from there was the 40-year-old plan. So unfortunately, it's just obviously 40 years old and can't contact them. So I guess at this point, sort of getting down to business, and it sounds like then you guys won't take a vote on approving the use of this or the change of use, or what do we need to do then to do that? Or can you do a change of use contingent on us getting these, the engineered plan, I guess, if you want to call it that?
Yeah, there's actually a number of things you're missing here that you're going to need. Besides the fact that the plan of record you submitted is probably not the last plan that is on record.
That's what Naomi found, because and I'm not trying to put this on Naomi, but we went back and forth, and that's what she was able to find. I have my own recorder title report. We went through that. I found something else that was even older. So from the actual recorded plan, that's sort of the best of what we had.
Now there should be a recorded plan with the building on it.
Yes, that does have that was submitted.
Yeah, Brian, this is Tim again. If you can't find anything readily, you know, on the website, on the county's website, contact Spot Stevens and McCoy, SSM Group. I'm going to guess that they did it because when I used to work there, I think they had Sweet Streets was their client, but I'm not 100% sure. The plan that Naomi put in our file, I noticed, was a Gibbons plan, which would either be Stackhouse, Bensinger, or SSM would be taking over those files. So either one of those, if you could contact them, they could probably give you some idea of where to locate that prior plan.
That's the plan, that one, and then there was,
And that's for Heaster's Lane, though.
yeah, but no, there was another one that I submitted.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Let me see if I can.
It is the one I'm familiar with.
It was the one I gave a hard copy to Naomi at the original submission there. So Naomi, I don't know if you still have that, and I sent the backup as well.
Yeah, I can look for it. I don't think that was, it had enough detail to actually be a plan that we could use.
Yeah, I mean, that's what was recorded. Again, I know we're dealing with a 40-year-old.
Is this the one you're referring to?
That's it. I gotta go dig through my files now. No, I'm pretty sure it had the building because it had the utilities on there. It was something different.
Yeah, that would make sense with buildings and utilities, driveways.
Yeah, it showed stormwater lines. It almost looked like an as-built.
Because that's one of the comments, Brian, that I'm going to make here. And I don't know if it's on Jerome's letter or not, but you're utilizing a driveway.
That's it right there.
You're utilizing two driveways that access the state highway there. And one of the things we have to see is the highway occupancy permit for actually both driveways because you're using both.
Yeah, I mean, that's already, I submitted the highway occupancy permit with the original application as well.
Okay.
So that was the recorded plan that I found, which showed exactly everything back from 1982 with the stormwater, or 81.
You know, one other fine point I wanted to, for clarification, is that the revised plan of record, minor land development plan, the expedited review process that's been discussed and related to, it's a new process that the city is still working with. I provided Naomi and Dave with, there's like 20 items we're looking for compliance. And if you focus on those items.
And then I guess question for, is that separate from the letter that you did? Because your letter is 415. So is that what you're referring to? Or is there
It's
something
separate. It's separate from that review letter. It's just an internal letter that we were just attempting to provide focus on and emphasis on plans like this.
Okay, you mean just as in general, I guess that's what you guys are working off of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is Will.
Okay, go ahead, Will.
Thank you. Just as a brief background, it may have been late 70s, early 80s, like the applicant said, around 40 years ago. This building was the baby outlet.
Yep.
Sometime after the Burlington Coat Factory had come in there on the 9th and Rockland or 9th and Heaster's Lane. And it was there for many years. And then at one point, when I was serving on the school board, the Reading School District was operating it as a temporary facility for our facilities department when there had been the fire and the rebuilding of the facilities department.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes. So the applicant might find some documentation there. I can't remember if they were leasing it or actually if the district
they were leasing it from Sweet Street. Sweet Street's owned it about 10 to 12 years, I think.
That sounds about right. Yeah. So that would be right, about 2009. So I don't know if there's any documentation from that, if not from Sweet Street. And I just happened to be by it recently and was lamenting how it's been underutilized. So I'm glad to see there's a proposal for it, something that the community could use. Just a couple, most of my questions have been answered already. Just a couple routine questions for a storage facility. Will there be a manager on site during regular business hours?
Not a full-time manager. The way we run our facilities is they're automated. Most of the market's going that way, especially during COVID. They want contactless. But you do have somebody coming in and out, making sure trash is picked up. You know, if obviously, unfortunately, a unit needs to get overlocked, all that kind of stuff. There is somebody there checking after those things, but there's not going to be somebody there 9 to 5 greeting new customers to come in there, because a lot of people are more independent and then tech savvy, and so you can just pull up, you enter your code in the gate opens, and then you go in and do your thing.
Which is convenient, but at the same time, you'll have somebody checking in on the facility to maintain it, like you're saying.
Yeah, and it's there's also cameras that are recording 24 hours a day.
Good. Given that the building, I believe, has HVAC, will these units be climate controlled?
Yes, they will be. So that's the intent.
Good. Yeah, that's good, because as I mentioned before, when we approved a storage unit before, this might be only the second one within the city limits that I'm aware of, at least that we've approved. And the other one is in the 18th ward. So there definitely is a need for it. I'm sure there is demand as people want to maintain documents and other climate and humidity sensitive documents or other items. So that's good. That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Does Bob or Lee have anything else?
Well, I just want to emphasize that the need to see that parking plan, because if you look at the fit out that they have for this, there's probably 250 units inside the building that they're going to be renting out. So if you figure 10% of the people coming to get some stuff out of their bin, that's 25 cars. So I just want to.
Yeah, from my experience, I would say you're not going to ever have 25 cars there at once. You can even have a larger facility than that, and you still wouldn't have that. I know, talking with David, the parking requirement is under industrial. It would be 1 spot per employee. So really, technically, it's 1 or 2 spots what you need. I know it just seems ridiculously low. So that's why I have 5 spots in the front there. Because most of the times you are going to be pulling up. There's going to be, besides the front, there's 2 other access points into the building. So you're going to be pulling up to those access points with your car or truck, and then accessing the building there.
Right. Thank you.
All right. I waited until last because I have a long list. Will Sweet Streets continue to store trailers on this site?
No, once we purchase the property, they will no longer have any connection to the property.
Okay. The existing sign needs to be shown on the plan.
Okay.
The sign might require separate zoning approval.
Yeah, and that's something, I guess, in the future, because we would do a separate sign permit, and then would be, is that grandfathered, I guess, and that's something I guess I can discuss further.
Yeah, that's something you'll have to talk to David with, because the sign regulations have changed over the years, and I don't remember what the latest ones are.
Gotcha.
Let's see here. Landscaping plan must be reviewed by the arborist.
Yeah, and so I guess it says here, it talks about should be, basically, we're encouraged, I guess it was the review. So do we have to? We already put together sort of a sketch of the overgrown stuff that's going to be taken out. Again, it's just sort of trying to understand the minor land development process for a change of use. Do we actually have to, or is it just because that's what I put together and submitted for you guys, and then to spec out what the landscaping type was going to be installed?
It's actually.
So I shared that with the arborist, and he's approved it, Byron.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Another thing.
Yeah, we hired a landscape architect to help us with that plan, by the way.
Okay, good.
Great. The other thing I noticed is that the zoning districts must be updated. Those zoning districts that are on the original plan are ancient. You're now
Yeah,
in the manufacturing commercial district.
Yeah, again, so this is, again, I guess we're just sort of, I don't want to say figuring it out as we go. And then again, if it's a misunderstanding, it was the old, to get the old plan, recorded plan, and then there was just going to be a minor change to it. I know talking with one of the other commissioners, excuse me, one of the other participants, I guess changes. So these are all things, I guess, things that we were not aware of, I guess, that
Yeah.
all these different changes. Again, it's just, and that's an easy change. So
Yeah.
again, I don't know, and if that's something that should have come up in Jerome's review, or if that's separate, because that wasn't on here. So, or at least I didn't understand.
But yeah, that's something that does need to be there. Even though you will not be required to have a sewer module, because the use will be less than when it was a retail space, you will be required to have a sewer module narrative to prove that you don't need a sewer module.
Is that in the ordinance? And I, again, apologize if I missed that, but
Yeah, Brian, I'll speak to that. I was going to make that comment anyway. There's a note on Jerome's, I think it's number 8 in there, talks about department review. That would be the Public Works Department.
yeah, so that's where they were saying just to write in how, because right now there's 9 toilets and 3 urinals. It was their opinion, because it's an existing building, they're already a paying sewer customer, to just say that we're going to be only having 2 bathrooms now, and that should probably, by just a narrative like that, it wasn't a sewer module narrative, I guess.
Yeah, I guess we're not going to tell you that you can't use all the toilets. The important thing is, what would be the total flow? What is the proposed flow? So what we'll need to see is a note on the plan where you calculate it, and it's an engineering calculation, or one that's based on experience. In fact, you may have better experience if you have other similar facilities of this size, and you could relate and use that as your basis. Typically, we've seen a lot of these storage facilities, and most of them are less than 1 EDU. That's an equivalent dwelling unit. And in the city of Reading, an equivalent dwelling unit is 262 gallons per day. You probably won't exceed that. And as long as you don't, right, you won't even be close. So if you could somehow narrate that on the plan, that would suffice to explain to, why a planning module or further planning would not be required.
Yeah, and again, and I feel like I keep repeating myself. I'm sorry for if there's miscommunication, but I guess there was a separate response letter that I put back saying how the sewers should be a lot less than what's already existing there.
Right.
And most
fixture,
of what's in that
and
note
just that
is
use.
acceptable.
Yeah, and just put the note on the plan then.
Okay.
That's what we're looking for. And if I may, Mr. Chairman, I just want one last comment from Tim on this one.
Sure.
There was a question as far as stormwater management, and just for the record, since there is no proposed site improvement, so there's no disturbance of the site, there's no new impervious area. I mean, even if they want to go in there and repair the existing pavement because it's seen some age, even that would not be considered new. That would be maintenance of the existing paving service. So therefore, there's no regulated activity with respect to the city's stormwater management ordinance. Therefore, stormwater management would not be a required feature of this land development.
Thank you.
Another thing that you will need is, even though it's public water, you still need to prove to the city of Reading that you will have a will serve letter from the water authority, from the Reading Area Water Authority.
Okay.
And that will need to, I think that requires a note on the plan.
Yeah, I got that covered.
Okay. No dumpster, I don't believe is an option.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to go through the ordinance there. I just operate my facilities without that, because the only reason why is when people see a free dumpster, it's like flies are being attracted to you know what. So it's I like to have it where people take their belongings and not, because it becomes my problem then. So
yeah. you will need to review that with the staff, but I don't.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to look into the ordinance and, if that's the case, then I comply with it.
And of course, that dumpster needs to be fenced off and locked.
Yep.
So if you fence it off and lock it, nobody's going to get to it anyway.
Or, yeah, I've seen people leave stuff outside of it, but yeah, I'll definitely, I will look into that then.
I think we reviewed this. You need a lighting plan to show the foot candle spread.
So even though all the lights, I'm not changing it, they're all upgraded LED fixtures that Sweet Street's done, I'd have to get all those fixtures and show that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're a dark skies.
Yeah, they're already down lights. So.
Yeah. So you need to at least provide what type of fixtures they are and what the engineered specs are.
So I guess this question, just because it's existing, and if they were,
yeah, but these were changed before since the last submission.
last submission. Yeah, I mean, I'll discuss it, I guess, offline there, and we'll try to figure that out. But so okay.
Yeah, but that's going to be a requirement. I don't think you need to get a lighting engineer.
Yeah, I just don't know if we'll be able to find out the spec to that light without, extensive. I mean, I doubt Sweet Street's a big company. I'm sure they just had an electrician come in there, switch them out to LED fixtures, and then went on their way. So I'm just thinking about trying to track down that information might be tough.
Sweet Street's is pretty detailed. They probably know exactly what they put in there. We've dealt with Sweet Streets many, many years, and they are very, very detailed. They know exactly what they put in there. And that's all my comments. Do we have anything else? Okay, at this point, since there's quite a bit to review on this plan, do I hear a motion to table the plan?
This is Bob Conklin. I'll put a motion in to table the 755 Easter Lane storage first plans.
Okay, thank you, Bob. And a second?
This is Lee Olson. I will second.
Okay, thank you, Lee. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you very much. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that I don't know what your experience in Euclid Township is, but we usually approve these plans within 90 days if you can get all your stuff together.
Yeah, no, that's just a PO box. I don't have, I haven't done anything in Euclid, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. So. Okay.
This isn't Limerick Township either, where they make you sign your MPC rights away.
Okay, understood.
Okay.
Well, that's
So as
good to
long
know.
as you
Thank
get
you.
all your ducks in a row, this should go very, very quickly.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, because this shouldn't take 6 months. This is not that difficult.
Yeah. All right.
So, okay, thank you very much for.
All right.
for
Thank
attending.
you. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have the 10 South 2nd Street, the Reading Area Community College Penn Street lot annexation. And I see that Joan is here somewhere.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here on the call, and Greg Boja, I see Greg has joined us as well.
Okay. Hello, Greg.
Okay. We have the review letter of November 19th. We were in front of the zoning hearing board last week on the wayfinding signage. We are prepared to address all of the comments in the review letter, and we are prepared to comply with all of the comments. Greg, do you have anything to add?
No, we are prepared to comply and to move forward.
Okay, now,
I can share
yeah, share the screen.
there's the screen for the plan. It's similar to the vacation that you looked at. We had discussed before about annexing it to the property where Burke's Hall is located. And that's what this plan shows.
Okay, the vacation of the Penn Street right-of-way was approved by ordinance last month by City Council. That was approved on October 14th. Being that it becomes effective 10 days after it is enactment, it was approved by the mayor on October 14th. That means that today was day 30 after the vacation and the adoption, and 10 days after the adoption of the ordinance. And to the best of our knowledge, there have been no appeals or exceptions filed. So we are prepared to record the quitclaim deed tomorrow, which I believe is the first day that we can do so. And so that step will be taken.
Yeah, that sounds great. Does any of the staff have any comments on this plan?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll just chime in here too. I'm glad to hear that the plan will be modified, revised according to the comments. I just have one question. There was a little bit of confusion among the staff on the one planning note, or the one note on the left side where it said that the vacated parcel will be annexed to the contiguous lots. I think it was number 8. I just want to make sure that the intent of this plan is to annex to the parent tract, which is the larger of the 3 lots on that block. Is that the case, Greg?
That is the case. And it's also, we're going to make it consistent with comment number 5 to the other parcels as well.
Okay. Yeah, because if it was the intent to annex it to more than one lot, then we need to see a lot consolidation plan. But if you're only doing it to the one, then it's pretty simple.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So we'll do that, and that will show on the revised plan.
Yeah, just a clarification on that note. We'll do it.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome. That's all I have.
Okay. What we're asking for is final plan approval tonight, conditional upon the resolution of the comments. The comments are of a technical nature that can easily be resolved.
In my communications, this seems to be appropriate. Does any of the commissioners have any comments? Okay. Well, hearing none, I will call for a motion to approve the preliminary final plan approval for 10 South 2nd Street, the Reading Area Community College Penn Street lot annexation, with the provision that all comments received by the applicant are corrected to the staff's approval.
This is Lee Olson. I will make the motion that we award preliminary / final plan approval to the annexation of the right of way to RAC as designed by Boja Engineering. It's at 10 South 2nd Street, known as the RAC Penn Street lot annexation, and with provisions that all of the conditions be approved as submitted by staff.
This is Will. I'll second that motion.
Very good. Thank you, Will. Okay. Any comments? Call on the question? Always forget now. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Very good. I think we have an approval and this is ready to go forward. I'm actually glad to see that that RAC will be taking this over and taking care of this and being part of their makeover that they are doing. And in relation to that, we have also submitted. There has also been submitted the RAC Welcome Home project, which the applicant is looking for comments. And if David, if you could introduce this.
Yeah, I see that Greg has this up on screen now, so if you don't mind, I'd like to defer to him or Joan to explain
Sure.
their concept behind it.
Okay, at the bottom of the page, you can see that Second Street, then North Front Street's more in the middle. Penn Street's running vertical on the plan sheet. The areas with the red clouds, that's where there's going to be crosswalks. There's an existing crosswalk there at Franklin Street. That'll probably just be a lot of restriping with the existing piano key. The next crosswalk would intend to be raised. And that we've been working with Public Works with the design for raised crosswalks and how that meets the smart streets guidelines that PennDOT puts out, and how that'll increase the safety for the pedestrians in that area. As well as we're going to work with the city's SRT project at the next one to the north, there where the existing guard shack is located at that crossing. So we'll probably work with your engineer there. And then the last one is also a proposed crosswalk. There's just been a lot of problems with really speeding at this location for people as they would continue on North Front Street. And then we can probably just continue with crosswalks. You see that there's another one there along Franklin on both sides at North Front or South Front Street and also Second Street. The main goal probably when we go forward with the Welcome Home project itself, it's more of a landscape beautification project. And you can see where it's going to change the texture of the concrete walkway. And you can see how that spans from Franklin Street all the way over to the Miller Center and where Schmidt Training is at. And then it also continues back through the Yoakum Library. And that's just to make sure that when people enter the campus, they know where the campus feel is and trying to get the pedestrians to know that they're on the main campus. And then there along Burks Hall, the overall goal is to have some seating outside at that location. Also some other curbed like retaining walls to just have a nicer collegiate feel. And then something similar with that over by Schmidt Training Center is also just to have like a retaining wall / sitting type of area. And then the dark hatching is more like a pergola, where you might be able to have some other particular vegetation that can grow up onto the trellises and enhance that area, which will make a nicer view shed than necessarily just seeing the garage as people would look through from the walkway. And then as you go out underneath Yoakum Library, the improvement there was when you kind of come into that, I call it like the eye there where the stairs and the elevator are located at the Yoakum Library. You really don't access Yoakum until you really walk through the back. So the change in alignment there is to just enhance the walkway into the building. And then as you go back, there again could be like sitting areas or like a sail and sunshade and picnic tables out there back to enjoy the riverfront views that are back there. So again, this was really just something to show you, to let you know what was going on. We're not into land development. It's more something we're going to be working through with the Public Works side, but we wanted you just to be aware of the beautifications that were going on.
And if you don't mind, I'd like to chime in. You heard Greg Boja mention about the SRT, the Schuylkill River Trail. We are working in conjunction with RAC on that project, and I'll give you a little bit of an update. Before I do that, I do want to comment, just add a couple things to what Greg was saying. He mentioned about there being a raised crosswalk. A raised crosswalk is a physical rise of the street itself, and that is intended to deter speeding and illegal use of the street. It has been proven to be pretty effective. I'm not a traffic engineer, but I do attend some of the training. Greg is a traffic engineer, and I agree that this is probably the best use and the best as far as practices that it's out there currently today. It's probably the best use in this area because of the concentration of pedestrian activity, especially. It is a mid-block. There's actually two mid-block crosswalks being proposed here, and we're reviewing that. I don't have 100% concurrence yet because I haven't had a chance to sit with Stan Rugas on this, but I am under the understanding he's going to go along with this as well, with both the mid blocks on this North Front Street and also with the idea of putting in a raised, what they call a speed hump. It's not a speed bump. That's a bump. They don't do speed bumps anymore. They do speed humps, which is an elongated area. So you don't go up and down. It doesn't ruin your shock absorbers, but it does provide for that slowing, that easing. They call it street furniture. It'll help to quiet down the traffic and keep them at the speeds that they're supposed to be. So that'll be going on in here too, and I am in favor of that. As far as the Schuylkill River Trail, real quick, if you notice at the top of the drawing, which would be the Schuylkill River, the top of the drawing, which would be actually the west side, there you see a little trail that runs through there. That's the current Schuylkill River Trail. It runs behind RAC, between RAC and the river, and their parking lot in the river. That is all being moved, and that's the process that the city's undergoing right now with moving that from that location, which is on private property, and moving it onto River Road to the north, which is kind of off to the right side of the drawing as you go north, and also onto North Front Street. So that whole stretch of Macadam Trail will no longer be the Schuylkill River Trail. The goal is to move it onto the street. Pedestrians actually utilize the street. So North Front Street and River Road will no longer be a 4-lane highway. It's going to be 2 lanes, and the other lanes will be dedicated to pedestrian use for the Schuylkill River Trail. The current project, which the city is working with PennDOT, will take the trail from the Penn Street Bridge, which appears in this drawing, north to Buttonwood. And that project was just awarded to J.D. Ekman, who was the same contractor that did the bridge. So we're very happy to see that they'll be back in Reading to do this Schuylkill River Trail. That'll begin, hopefully we'll give them a notice to proceed in February and get them going here as soon as the weather starts turning nice here this spring, and we'll get that trail located on the north phase, and then we're going to be working on this phase, the design of the phase that's going in front of RAC here on North Front Street, and we'll hopefully get that design knocked out next year. So is there any questions from the commission on that presentation?
I don't have any questions, Tim, but I do have some comments. First of all, Greg, thank you very much. I think it's a long overdue pedestrian friendly improvement plan for the campus. The campus is so terribly bifurcated by vehicular traffic that if there's even more lane reduction and calming that you can do, I think the better. I like the fact that you are naturalizing the walkway system, that it is not parallel and perpendicular grid, but becoming more of a natural organic walk along the river. One thing that I've noticed about the center of campus itself, it is so lacking in trees and shrubbery that are above 3 feet. I think as they move forward, I would encourage them to put more money in a tree budget to have some real tree development where we can have some good quick growth with some umbrella trees so that we can get some shade because the sun just beats on that campus all day long. And most importantly, when you are on the campus, you have no idea the river is there. There needs to be some viewpoints opened up into the river and some more visual communication. You can see it, but you've got to go look for it because the banks, the riparian areas are so unkempt. And it's a long time coming, and it's not going to happen overnight. But this campus is situated on a beautiful location at the bend in the river. And you just need to capitalize on the views that are there waiting to be unclogged and presented to people. So keep up the good work. I think it's a good start. It's time for it. And on the heels of its anniversary, I think this is a good step going forward.
Thank you, and you'd be happy to hear that there will be additional shrubs and plants as part of the project.
Good. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is Will.
Go ahead, Will.
Thank you. Also, mostly just comments. We have been given the RAC master plan to review, which I thought was good, and I know there was a plan to accomplish what is being proposed here. Now to see it, it's very exciting. I think this plan is in accordance with the master plan. I'm thinking about what a challenging site this is. The Commissioner also mentioned, of course, one of the big things here about the how bifurcated it is with the street. And of course, the wayfinding was the concern, but it has a bridge, it has a railroad, another parcel, the contours of the river itself. Originally, of course, it was the hotel, the main building. It was never intended as a campus. There were all sorts of other properties here. And yet now it seems to be developing into what's going to look and feel more like a college campus and be unified, be safer, more convenient. So it's really, I'm glad to see that. I think we had heard something before about the Schuylkill River Trail, but not that kind of detail of what's being planned here with River Road. If I'm understanding correctly, that's exciting too. We'll see how that's going to be. I know there's a note on the plan about that this was done at the time the survey when the Penn Street Bridge was still being redeveloped, so remodeled. So that's the only part of the campus. I mean, I think this plan is good as it is. But if there's anything you could do in that area where the people have to pass under the bridge to get to and from the parking, it's not the most inviting area. I don't know what you could do, but if there's any thoughts you might have on that, maybe that would be a later phase. It's a little intimidating, really, over there. So anything that you could think of to improve that when people have to come for different events or whatever would be appreciated. But like I said, it is a challenging site, and the main part of the campus here, what you're doing is terrific. So thank you for presenting it to us.
Yep,
Will,
you're very welcome.
let me add to this, Will. RAC is planning on some additional parking improvements in addition to the wayfinding signage improvements and the pedestrian improvements that you're seeing with this project. It's all part of the phased plan for improvements. But what we're working on is, first of all, making it more pedestrian friendly, and also what can be seen from the Penn Street Bridge and from the major thoroughfares of the campus.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember seeing that there were more plans with parking in the works, but I guess those are different plans from this
That's right.
part, right?
Okay. Do you have anything, Bob?
No, I think I'm good. Everybody has said everything that they have said, and I agree with it. So kudos to Greg.
Yep, and I just wanted to mention, reducing River Road down to 2 lanes and then putting in the trail through there. is a big thing because I think we've been discussing the Schuylkill River Trail connection now for more than 10 years. And we're finally getting a solution. So thanks to RAC for helping provide this solution and being a community partner in that, and also with trying to get this the traffic situation under control.
Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time tonight. And I know the others that are involved that deserve the credits, like Joan and the other architect and the college, just for having the vision to want to do this. You know, it's great that they're moving forward that way. So thank you for all the compliments.
Yes, thank you. It's been wonderful working with this team at RAC, and I appreciate the commission's time and good questions.
Very good. Of course, that was just a presentation, so there's no need for a motion on that. And I believe we can move on to 1700 and 1716 North 12th Street, known as the future Exeter Hall at Albright College. And if Dave would like to start off on this and introduce any comments, and then we'll hand it over to Greg.
I'll just speak very briefly on this as a result of the feedback that was presented at last month's meeting. We've had several very productive, I think, discussions with the team from Albright College about this project. There's a new concept that's being presented this evening that's, again, in response to many of the review comments from our consultants review, and as well as the feedback that was presented last month. So I think it might make sense for Greg to introduce the changes, and then if Jerome would like to, provide some responses or some highlights from the review letter, that might be a good way to approach this.
Okay, thank you, Dave. I think you can see that from the comments that we got last month to where there was concerns about shadow and location of the building as far as the other residences. You can see that the building was relocated, so that would no longer be a concern, and that we would be outside the 100-foot setback off of Exeter Street. So with that, the project itself is still very similar in that it's still a building for 350 students for beds. It's still the same size building. We rotated the access points a little bit on this drawing, and we tried to still look at the past comments that were provided by the Planning Commission and staff, that you see that we have walkways out from the building to both Exeter Street and also 12th Street. You can see that we met with the City of Reading Public Works Department. So we've identified the sidewalk that would need to be replaced and also the various curbing. We kept a pretty similar outlook as far as trees and what you'll see that way as far as the parking lot and landscaping. And we're working with the input as far as the street trees. For the project itself, when we make the next submission, you'll see the traffic impact study that was requested. And it'll be in conformance with your consultant's recommendations. And the review letter, Jerome, that you covered, I think generally most things will be consistent and will be complied with. I think the only thing that I would just elaborate on was comment number 2, where it discussed the 15-foot offset there for the rear yard by the Humane Society. What we're going to do is we look at this plan is we're actually going to take a second access off of Exeter Street and then close the one there on 12th Street. So by doing that, we're going to end up changing our rear yard to a side yard, and that's how we'll proceed so the building can stay at the same location. And we intend just to really take that into the existing aisle that you see on this plan. The separation distances were, 40-foot minimum required and from center to center, and we have about 73. So I think that looks like a good solution about how we're going to address that comment, and the rest that we felt will comply. And the project attorney will work with the city as far as the ordinances with the zoning, with the R3 and the MC zones, where we intend really just to make both the R3 zone.
I do have an objection. I believe that the 25-foot setback would still apply. You do not have a rear yard setback that would establish, and if you look at the provisions for a corner lot, it still would require a rear lot. I would agree that the 15-foot setback could apply along the other boundary that is located with the Humane Society, but the one common lot line that separates the Humane Society from your property, that should be 25 feet.
Yeah, we spoke not with you, Jerome, but with David, and we covered that lot line. It was only being stated that way is because the main access was there, and that's how the property would have been accessed. But with us changing the access, we felt that would address the concern about how to revise how the setback would be viewed, and would be consistent with the previous plan that was submitted with the 15-foot setback that we had shown on our prior submission that was accepted.
And if I may just jump in on that as well, in response to your question, I think it was yesterday, Greg, about whether changing the access would affect that. I mean, you're absolutely correct. That the rear yard setback is based on the street where the building has its access, and where it has its address, and any changes to the address, as I believe I mentioned to you, do have to be approved by the Public Works Department. So currently, as it is right now, it's based on 12th Street. That does require that the lot line that is parallel to 12th Street comply with that 25-foot setback. If that change were submitted and approved by Public Works, then that would be a different analysis.
Okay, thank you, Dave, for the clarification.
The other point with the rear access point is it is limited in the back for the accessibility of emergency vehicles.
Right, we've run this plan by Jeremy Searfoss several times, and he was satisfied with it.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments by staff? Okay, anything from the commissioners?
Mr. Chair, this is Will. I could not attend last month's meeting, but I did read the review the plan, and read the review letter, and I read the minutes, the draft of the minutes from last month. Just a couple background things and some questions. For 1700 North 12th Street, which is currently used as, or had been used as a practice field, a few years ago, we had reviewed a plan for improvements thereon. So I take it that leaves a shortage of a practice field. I can't see what's being proposed here. If the entire site is going to be covered now, I'm presuming it is. Before I go to that part, I think there was some issue, perhaps Commissioner Beeler, you would remember, about the grading at the northwest part of the parcel where it adjoins the Humane Society. And there might even be something about a retaining wall there. I don't remember what the issue was, but it's something maybe it's not of any concern, but I remember it came up in our review. So it's something to think of. I know the sidewalks were an issue in our in our review. But other than that, I don't think there was anything of concern with the parcel itself. 1716 North 12th Street. This is the former Department of Defense site, which I believe was an Army Reserve unit. And it was donated, and then Albright, lined it for parking and put basketball courts on it. And during World War II, it had served, there was a factory there that produced parachutes. And so I believe there was some sort of I don't want to say a marker, like a Pennsylvania marker, but some sort of historic, I don't want to say monument, but some sort of, I don't know if it was signage or something that was to recognize that. I don't know if there is something still there or any requirement on that. I don't know if it was a covenant or whatever it was part of the transfers before I was on the commission, part of the transfer from the Department of Defense. So I don't know if that's something that has come up or has to be preserved or maintained or whatever. But I read, Mr. Chairman, your comments in particular in the minutes about the lack of seeing an updated master plan. It would help if we could understand Albright's view, because we're reviewing things piecemeal, and when I ask about things, we don't really get an answer. It helps to understand how one part relates to the whole, like we just reviewed earlier with RAC. So, like, for example, you had mentioned the former David Crystal site on North 13th Street. Now, I had heard this might be proposed for track and field, but now I'm wondering if they'll use that for the practice site, if the dormitory won't be there. There's the site on Rockland Street, which we had reviewed for the proposed velodrome, which is off the table. So does Albright have any plans for that site? It would be helpful to know, like Commissioner Olson said in last month, about any expansion to the west and how it will be integrated and how everything works together from a planning perspective. It would really be helpful. So I was heartened to hear that there have been some discussions with the city, and we hope we could get some insight so we could understand the picture a lot better. I think that's all I have for now.
Sure. Well, I guess a little bit to help you out, I can take back your comment that you'd like to see about the overall master plan. I can also tell you that for part of their property that's located strictly in Muhlenberg Township for Rossner Field, that's to get an upgrade for the field itself so that it can be better utilized into the future.
That's the one you're calling Rossner Field would be the one that was the former David Crystal site, because I know that straddles the township city boundary. Is that what you mean?
It's up there next to the other buildings that have residential uses. That's
right.
Built some years back. Yes.
Yeah, that's the one Commissioner Beeler had referred to. So that we'd be interested to hear
Yeah.
what people are wondering in the community, because there was the demolition a couple of years and it's sat idle since then, and we didn't know. And if you have anything on the velodrome site, the former proposed site for that, we'd be interested. But thank you I appreciate that that you'll get back to us on that. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Anything else from the other commissioners?
Yeah, Wayne, this is Lee. Greg, I'd like to say thank you. I really appreciate your taking the information and the observation about doing something with the orientation of the building. I really like this second plan much better. I think it will serve the building's orientation and also the community that lives in it and the community that walks around it. I really appreciate the fact that you and the design team took that to heart and took a look at it, and I really appreciate what you've done. The other thing, and this goes back to what Will was saying, and I want to clarify something from my comments of last month. Those of us that are in positions to deal with clients who are looking to expand and to improve their businesses, whether it be education, healthcare, retail, civic, etc. you really can't lay all your cards on the table, especially if you have an idea about advancing in one direction towards land you don't own. And the minute word gets out that you're contemplating going in direction X versus direction Y, then all those people who own property in the direction X suddenly start to salivate. So you have to be very careful when you are thinking about expansion. So I know we want to see a master plan of any particular institution, public or private, educational or medical, that we have purview over, but they can only be put out to us when they are, if you don't have the land, you don't have a project. And so you can speculate and dream about what could happen in the future. So I think there may have been some reluctance, and I'm using that word guardedly. Nobody plays poker with all their cards face up. So, but I just want to go back to the building. I really appreciate the fact that I think this is a better orientation for a 5-story building. I think it opens itself up more to the campus, and I think that's a smarter thing. So I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome. And Summer is also on our meeting here this evening, and I can bring up the Exeter Hall drawings that they had prepared so that everybody could see that as well.
Mhm.
There's an elevation view of
Yeah, that's
something
one of
that
our renderings.
they're looking at. So I don't know if you'd like to describe that, Summer, for what you were.
Yeah, that's fine. I can talk about it. Yeah, so this is, again, going with kind of the L shape. We agree. We like this orientation and how it lays out and the rhythm of it a lot more as well. So we're looking at kind of using these hardy panels with reveal joints as seen along the main body of the dormitory for the upper floors. On the lower floors, the brick and the stone were to match the stadium across the street. And the red, at this point, it's coming out a little pinkish. We understand that. That was just trying to get this all bright shade of red, but then including the sun shading and exposure and stuff like that, it's turned out a little bit more pink. We're aware of that. We have made some adjustments in our renderings, but yeah, this is kind of to give the overall idea of what we're looking at. Actually here, I have a rendering here that's a little bit more red. If you'd like me to pull that up.
Sure, go ahead.
So here's showing kind of that entry coming into it where we have this more red entry. And then also we have this rendering, same kind of thing. Just to give a better idea of the colors that we're looking at. These are closer to the actual colors that we were trying to get to. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much, Summer. Do you have any comments, Bob?
No, I think what Lee was saying really hits it all home. So everything that they've been doing and taking comments to heart instead of getting mad about them really paid off in the end. So thank you.
Yep, thank you, Bob. I'll take that back to the whole team.
Yeah, I completely agree that this looks really, really good. And it's moved more into the manufacturing commercial area and away from the away from the residential area on Exeter Street, which is one of the things we were definitely looking for. You know, I can't ask, I really can't ask for more. This is an amazing change, I believe.
Okay.
One question I had, I don't, you know, since, you know, this, what I printed out is probably not the right page, but we talked last week about the existing mid-block crosswalk on 12th Street. Is that going to remain, or is that going to be removed?
I'm in process of trying to make that determination right now, Wayne.
Okay, great. Just double check in with Tim on that. You know, that's definitely one of the
Yeah, we've been talking about it, and I believe that's going to be an element in the pedestrian impact plan or the pedestrian report that Boja Engineering's putting together.
Yes.
fantastic. I do think that things are really coming together. I will also mention that for the first time since I've been on the Planning Commission, Albright College has graciously come forward and asked for a meeting to review a few things. And I'm so glad to hear from Albright and their and the people who you know, try to determine where stuff goes on campus and things like that. And I greatly appreciate them reaching out to us. Does anyone else have any comments on this?
Okay. Our goal for you, Wayne, is probably just to go back through and get the plan tidied up for codes with Tim and everybody else. So we'll probably look for a preliminary plan approval as we come into the December meeting.
And I should mention, I'll have David chime in on this because I'm terrible with time and dates. We changed the date of the meeting. Is that correct, David?
Right, the December meeting, and I believe Greg's aware of this, but the December meeting date is December 21st, which is actually the third Tuesday of December, and the submission deadline is still 3 weeks ahead of that, which is November 30th.
So just wanted to make everyone aware of that. And then hopefully everyone will have the ability, like I do on the last week of the year, that I take the week off. My wife and I always take the last week of the year off. So hopefully everybody else will too, since we were able to move the meeting.
Mr. Chairman, according to my agenda, this was up for a preliminary plan review. Are we going to grant them that, or are we going to table till next month?
The recommendation from staff is to table it until they get a few details worked out on the zoning and some of the other things that Greg mentioned.
Okay, looking at okay, I think that's fine. Looking at the text on our agenda, there's an article there, a comment that says airport overlay. Greg, what does that mean?
What we did is we went back through the airport, determined its elevation of the runways. We then determined the elevation relative to the site. We added the 60-foot height for the 5 stories, and we were well under, actually several hundred feet under that threshold. So,
Yeah, I would
We-
think your location, you are under the minimum for final approach with wheels down, I would think, on runway 45.
correct, we were several hundred feet lower. So we provided that information to staff previously, and I believe they agreed, which is why you saw in Jerome's letter that everybody was agreeable with the airport evaluation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Certainly.
Very good. And unless there's any other comments, I'll ask
just-
for,
This is,
Oh,
well,
Will?
something I neglected to say. I really appreciate the Albrights proposing a dormitory. That's something that there's definitely a need for. And what we had approved previously on Rockwood Street actually is an apartment building, which was to be marketed to students, but in theory could be, as far as I know, it's only rented to students, but in theory could be rented to anyone. But definitely there's a need for this facility. So I was glad to see the proposal in that sense anyway. And I look forward to seeing those. I hope I'll be able to see those elevations at some point. So thank you.
Yeah.
very good. And
Okay.
with that, do I hear a motion to table?
Yes, this is Lee Elson. I will motion to table this project to next month's meeting.
And a second.
Bob Conklin, I'll second.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Any,
Yep.
any comments on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Very good. Once again, thank you very much, Greg.
Sure thing.
And thank you, Summer. We really appreciate you joining us this evening.
Welcome,
Have a
thank
great
you.
night, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, and let's see what else we got going on here. Okay, next on our agenda, 228 Moss Street, known as Iron Gate. Preliminary plan for a proposed 4-story self-storage facility designed by Ludgate Engineering. And is someone here from Ludgate?
My name is Mark Gedio. I'm here from Iron Gate Builders. Tom Ludgate asked me to jump in tonight. He's on vacation for the holiday week.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome,
That will
Mark.
work.
We are glad you were able to make it.
Thank you. He said there may have been questions pertaining to exterior aesthetics, and he thought I might be able to help. So I'll be happy to answer any questions I can at this time.
Okay. Did you submit any exterior elevations to the staff, or do you have them on your computer?
So can I share my screen?
So I'll let that up to David.
Yeah, you should have a bright green screen share button, and you'll have permission to share once you hit that.
Share and share. So, you guys see that?
Excellent. Oh, excellent. This look, yeah, let me, oh yeah, I am unmuted. Yeah, it looks great.
So this was just a small PowerPoint we put together during the zoning hearing board sessions that we had earlier in the year. In going through that, you can see the aerial view of the existing structure and the history of that building and what we decided to do with the building. And this is the proposed aesthetic currently. We have not formally engaged a design professional. We're kind of doing things in milestone approvals here. We've been through the zoning portion. Now we're at the land and planning portion. We've engaged Ludgate as the professional for the civil end of things. And then once we reach this milestone, we'll engage with a design professional architect for the planning of the structure. But these are some concepts that we developed in-house. using the new style of architectural panels. The CMU, the block that is shown at grade, currently we were just using a split-faced finished CMU. We could certainly consider a brick to tie into the surrounding areas, still using a steel panel structured building, but we could certainly highlight some details if there's requirements or suggestions that would be more favorable. So that's an idea of the front elevation looking at it from Moss Street. This would be the right side elevation if you were standing at Celino's looking down Moss Street. The rear elevation shows garage door bays. Really, that whole alley that runs parallel to Moss Street is filled with carports and garage doors. So we wanted to attract the same type of storage. And those doors could either be a 3-man door or they could be an overhead garage door where we're not tied into the garage door approach. That's the buffer zone side. And just as a note, so the existing condition, so you see the buffer zone. The house adjoining the buffer zone is also owned by the same owner of this parcel that we're talking about currently. And that would be his side. This is a fire rated. This whole section here is fire rated. So we would be more in compliance or more in tune to making sure we're fire rated than the aesthetic value, as it basically joins the same tall structure on that side of the property. Color schemes, you know, we're wide open. This is a ground level layout. This is the lower level daylight, if you will, walkout area for these garage bays. As you come up to the first floor, accessed by from the Moss Street, this is an empty, kind of the empty structure, providing ADA ramps up to the main floor, lavatory facilities, elevator, retail office for an attendant. And then this is some ideas of the interiors for the climate controlled storage units. Here again, the first floor lays out a little differently because some of our amenities are on the first floor that we don't carry up through the second floor. We don't need an office on the second and third floors. So you still have your elevator, you have all your egress, stairwells. Basically took this at the time, now I know someone earlier in the meeting is proposing a self-storage at Easter's Lanes, but as of March, there wasn't that proposal we weren't aware of. So this kind of shows in the area of competitors, if you will. There's only one or two in the area that we felt the need. We felt that the location that we picked would be successful. So market data. So besides that basic overview, that I wasn't given much information from Tom. He just asked to show up in his absence while he was away.
No, we very much appreciate what you have shown us today. This is part of what we were asking for.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm glad to see this. I will also mention as a personal note, that in my opinion, you have chosen a good site for this. So, you know, I wish you all the success. Unless
Just
you
for
have any
full
other,
disclosure. Yeah, I'm not the business owner of the end business. I'm just the builder in the process.
yeah, well, we wish you success in building this also.
Yep.
Because it's not going to be easy on that little street.
Right.
With that, I will turn it over to David and the staff.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll just briefly, excuse me, reiterate what we commented on the last time this came in, just for background. Although this is in a residential zoning district, this building obviously has a history of non-conforming use and did obtain the requisite relief from the zoning hearing board in order to support this use. So they have been through that zoning portion of this process, which is what brings them here right now. And this presentation, of course, was made part of the record that was presented to the zoning hearing board. So we have referenced that decision, and that's been made part of this this application and was considered as part of our reviews.
Understood.
Very good. Anything from Jerome?
No, not at this time. We issued comments previously, and we had also provided comments with traffic accessibility with regarding their truck turning movements. That still remains to be a bit problematic for the site, and the applicant's going to have to address those issues. And then the stormwater management issues that will need to be addressed as part of this application.
Sure. Yeah, I'm aware of those, and I understand that Tom is working through those issues.
Anything from you, Tim?
Yeah, no, that I will reiterate what Jerome was saying. Everything we talked about before would be applying, and we're looking forward to seeing the completed stormwater and other items that were on the review.
Fantastic. Okay, anything from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, this is Will. I just want to say I really appreciate this project because this building has been an eyesore for years. Every time I patronize Toledo's, I'm concerned that it's going to collapse or there'll be a fire or something. And I didn't even imagine somebody would redevelop it into something useful for the community. So I think this is wonderful. And I wish, again, I can't see being on the phone what the elevations look like and everything. So I look forward to seeing those too. But I'm sure it's going to be a lot better than what it is now.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that. We did try with several different engineers and concepts to revitalize the bones of this existing structure, but it's too far gone. And our proposal includes a complete demolition and then rebuilding of a new structure. So we're basically taking the L shape of this building and flipping it on the same parcel and opening up the corner space to create more open space effect, getting rid of the courtyard that was encompassed in the original structure. So we're going to open up that corner on Moss and the alley that faces the church parking lot, and then further out to also one of my favorite locations, Salinos, further out Moss Street.
Okay. Do you have anything, Lee?
No, I do not, sir.
Okay, Bob?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Mark. Once again, excuse me? Once again, Mark, thank you for presenting this presentation. This is one of the things that we did want to see. And how you were envisioning the
I
project.
could email this if needed. If anybody needs this emailed, I'll be happy to send it along.
If you could email it to Dave, that would be great, and then he'll distribute it.
Okay. Let me just grab a email address.
Mark, I have your email address, so I'll send it to you and then you can reply with that.
Perfect.
Perfect. Great. Let's see here. Any other comments from staff?
And just for my clarity, the takeaways are whatever's already been noted to Ludgate. I just need to reinforce with him that those items still need to be rectified.
I believe that is correct, but I'll let Jerome kick in on that one.
Sure.
What was your inquiry?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I have really nothing extra to add to that, but go ahead, Jerome.
I didn't understand his question.
He was asking whether or not there's anything in addition to add to the comments from earlier.
Yeah, just the previous comments that were outlined in our review letter. We went through those with Ludgate Engineering before.
No problem.
Fantastic. With that, the recommendation from staff is to table the plan while these while the details are being squared away with Ludgate. But it seems that hopefully next month we might see this again.
Yes.
So do I hear a motion to table 2228 Moss Street?
I move the table.
Okay.
The Moore Street, 228 Moore Street, Iron Gate preliminary plan.
And a second.
Bob Conklin will second.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Okay. Any questions on the motion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, opposed? Very good. Thank you again for joining us, Mark. We really do appreciate it. And we hope to see this project back next month.
Likewise. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Up next, we have actually two related things on the same and in the same area. I believe they're even on the same parcel. I'm not sure. We have 600 Spring Street and 660 Spring Street. 600 Spring Street is the presentation of a self-storage facility in within the existing Reading Station. And 660 Spring Street is a presentation for a commercial venture at the building that is right next to the subway along Spring Street there. That used to be a home improvement store. And do we have a presenter for this?
My name is Dan Becker. I'm here to present, although I think, David, I don't know if you can, there we go. David didn't want to see me, I think, there for a while, and my video stopped. All right. So hello, everybody. My name is Dan Becker. I'm here representing Douglas Development. Also on the call, we have several people from Douglas. I saw that we have Paul Milstein, I think, was here. Scott Miller is here from Spot Stevens McCoy as the engineer. Chris Regan is also here. And I think we may have Phil Gardner from Douglas as well on phone. Phil, are you here?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, so we appreciate taking the time to talk to us this evening. I'd like to start out with discussion regarding the GoPuff proposal. You are correct. This site is the site of the Reading Station. It's where the Price Right is. It's right next to the subway. And David, I don't know if you want to give me some control here. May I share the screen?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, you have access to share.
What I will do is I'll pop up very quickly a copy of just a site overview. Can you see the screen with the aerial view? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
awesome. All right. So you can see them with my cursor. The site that we're talking about is the site, just essentially it's right in this location. The piece of property in particular that we're relating to the GoPuff is the former, the train station itself. And you can see that it's a fairly nice looking building, fairly spacious, and we're looking at several different uses to go into that location. Tonight, we're here to talk to you about two in particular, which are going to be the GoPuff and Three Rivers that will be down in the lower end of the building as my cursor is kind of running back and forth there right now. What I'd like to do is GoPuff, by the way, is a national brand. The other use would be Three Rivers. What I'd like to do is turn that over to Phil, if you can, Phil, and give a brief explanation about those two uses.
Yeah, sure, of course. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for having us. Just real briefly, GoPuff is a small commercial user, similar to it's essentially a cross between a CVS and a 7-Eleven. It's all web-based and app-based. It's essentially a purveyor of dry goods, and you order via an app or web-based with an account, and staff within the facility prepare your order, bag it for you, and you pick it up right there at the facility, and or it can be delivered via a third-party contract driver like a DoorDash or something to that effect. The kind of staffing is 2 to 5 individuals on site full-time at any given time. All deliveries are made via third-party contract delivery. There's no vehicles actually housed or designated to the actual property itself. It's also open to consumer access directly. You could place a order via the app and pick it up directly, if you would.
Phil, I think we're losing you. All right, let me pick up. Phil, I think we lost you there. So I think he got through the explanation pretty thoroughly as it related to the GoPuff. GoPuff essentially is a convenience store, which is a delivery type of convenience store. The long and short of it is that they have a variety of different products. You call in or you use the app and they will deliver those products to you. It has minimal impact on parking for that particular use as well. I'm going to put up the other use is a company called Three Rivers. It's a related company. They do it more as a restaurant facility where you order their products, and again, largely delivery as well for the Three Rivers. The building.
Yeah, sorry, I dropped off there.
Yep, we sure did.
The call dropped. I don't know where I dropped, but I think Dan was summing it up that the GoPuff is a web-based, app-based 7-Eleven, if you will. You order online or order at a kiosk in person there. It's bagged almost instantly on the facility and either handed to you directly there or delivered via a third party. Three Rivers is a small restaurant that where you can dine in, past casual, and also purchase beer to bring off premises.
So Phil, with what's the square footage in each of those buildings that is being proposed to be utilized by those two uses?
Yeah, the GoPuff is 5,200 feet and the Three Rivers is 2,500 feet.
I'm going to pop up here just part of a concept plan for you so that you can see, you may already have a copy of this. But the build, so this is a concept plan for the development of the entire site. And at this point, I don't want to focus on anything but really the existing building 2, which is down in the lower right-hand corner. And you can see me circling it with my cursor. The commercial space C is where GoPuff will be located. The Three Rivers will be in the other middle space. And then there's going to be another piece that's available too. I understand that there are talks right now and discussions with some tenants for that space as well. Right now, what we're talking about again is those 2 spaces, and I'll go. And we're looking for those uses to. It's basically we're reusing the building that is currently there, and are going to fit out the inside for those 2 uses. Let me switch screens here for a moment. This is actually the plan. This is, as you can see, this is a standalone property, deeded property. It's separate and apart from the larger site, but they're both owned at the present time by Douglas Development. Douglas will continue to own this and will be leasing this property out to those 2 uses and potentially others that we talked about this evening. We received a review letter from Hawk Valley, from Jerome, and I've gone through this with David at length and with our engineers. We believe that we can or will comply with the variety of the comments that are in here. The biggest question, I believe, relates back to parking for the site. If you look at the way the site lays out right now, you can see that there's spaces that are located on this particular site in the front of the building. Certainly sufficient spaces for the GoPuff use itself. To the extent that we need additional spaces or there's other demands that would be required by the planning department, we can certainly enter into an agreement for the other location with the other portion of the property that's also under the same ownership by Douglas. We have plenty of spaces over there. I don't know, David, do you want to go through line by line with these different comments from Jerome to talk about them this evening, or do you want to kind of direct us where you'd like us to take it next or for information on this project?
Well, what I would suggest is I have just 1 or 2 questions, and then maybe see if Jerome would like to touch on just some highlights from the review letter. If that's all right with everybody, we could do it that way.
It's good with us.
Okay. So I do have just 1 question starting off, and I appreciate you putting this up on screen. You had shown us the kind of applicable corner, right, of the concept plan where we're focused here. And then the second plan that you have up on screen, is this a new plan based on the review comments?
No, this is not. This is the plan that I believe that Scott Miller prepared previously, and I believe he can provide more detail on this plan. We understand that we just got the comments. So we understand that we have to address some of those comments. We don't believe that any of them will create an issue, and we should be able to do that relatively quickly within the next couple of days.
And just to clarify, no, this plan was not submitted. We
Okay.
just submitted the overall plan, sketch plan for the CubeSmart project, but we were able to create this with the base information that we have.
Okay. So this is, I didn't think I had seen this one before. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't losing it. Okay, no, that's great. So this is reflecting the existing conditions, which I think follows our conversation previously about the number of parking spaces as it currently exists is relatively small on this particular parcel. But the concept plan does show that there would be more parking spaces to the, I guess it's to the east of the existing building. And I was wondering if you can just touch on briefly the plan to redevelop that site for adding those additional spaces. Would that be in connection with GoPuff, or is that some future development of those parking spaces?
All right, so as you know, right now, this building here is the Price Right shopping center or store. And there is a Dollar General, I think it's in this space at the corner at the base, down at the bottom. This parking field here exists pretty much as is. And let me go back to the aerial. It might be helpful if I go back there. So as you can see, so again, this is the building that I'm circling right now that we're talking about. GoPuff will be down in this corner. Three Rivers will be a smaller piece towards the center. The parking that we just talked about, there's like a dozen spaces that are located right here in the front. And then that's kind of if you remember just kind of the outline of the parcel, it kind of goes out to that tree line or that grassy strip right there. There is a significant number of parking spaces that are currently on the site that exist that actually come all the way down, David, way down towards, kind of the Hope Rescue Mission. These spaces are obviously almost always vacant and empty. Even here in the parking field in front of the Price Right, they're largely empty at the current time as well. So for purposes of what we're proposing right now, there is certainly a lot of spaces available. And what we would do, to the extent that you believe that, that we would need some additional spaces, we would enter into an agreement with Douglas to make sure that it's available for that location as well.
Okay, so that area immediately east of the existing building, which is not currently developed into parking spaces, you're saying you're not going to need those spaces for zoning compliance right now. They're shown on the concept plan, so that would be some future.
So let's just talk a little bit about that. And that's something that, David, you and I'm glad you're bringing it up. Thank you. That this area is not parking now on the concept plan. Let's go back there for a second. Oops. It shows some spaces that are located. Now, remember, the orientation of this plan is a little different. They're showing some spaces that are located down in that area, which may be developed and would be developed at some point in time in the future, if ultimately needed, which we think that they may be. Right now, the way the concept plan is designed, and understand the concept plan is subject to change down the road, but we're showing a total of spaces of 1,106, and there's going to be a surplus of 124 just with the design that we're showing, including those uses. Again, remember, this is concept, so I don't want you to focus on concept at all at the moment. Really what we're focusing on, and I think a better representation of what the Planning Commission needs to recognize is right now there is not going to be parking over here. That's actually elevated slightly. It was part of the train platform, as I understand it, when there used to be the train station. The spaces that we believe there's sufficient spaces for the GoPuff already in the front. Again, to the extent that with the Three Rivers, we would need additional spaces, we would enter into a cross agreement with the other portion of the property under the same ownership. We would work with whatever you needed in that regard. So
Dan, can I ask you a question?
Yep.
Why did you not want to consider an annexation?
Okay, so yeah, so the reason we aren't interested in annexation is a couple-fold. We're going to talk in a minute about developing the other property. Let me go back to that picture. The commercial building D, self-storage, we're going to be talking about that piece as well in a moment. And the reason we don't want to, we're looking to subdivide that off. And that will then be held as it will be owned by Douglas. Douglas will be the franchisee. And for purposes of obtaining financing for these different properties and development, what we would be doing is having separate Douglas entities own them. We don't want them all encumbered under the same mortgages and financing that would be required. I don't know. I know we have Paul Milstein on the call here with us as well. Paul, I don't know if you want to talk to that anymore.
Sure, sure. Be glad to. Do you got me? Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
I'm trying to start video and it's not starting, but I can assure you, you're not missing much. So anyway,
I can see you.
Okay. Okay, great. So listen, and thanks for getting together. So the reality is there's different lenders for different pieces. We are having ongoing conversations with several lenders on the residential side, trying to put our packages together and get this development to where we want it to be, as we've discussed probably a year ago, initially pre-pandemic. Those lenders will be very different than a CubeSmart lender, And the CubeSmart lender will be different than the residential lender and will then inevitably be different than the GoPuff lender. And for anything on that property, should we actually need one on the GoPuff piece, which we don't believe we do. So the reason we're going to actually look in, as we go through this process, and I'll defer to Dan on timing, we're going to envision all of these being carved out individual lots so that I can have fee simples tied to each specific lender for every single building, because they do represent different lenders. That's the purpose of it. But we'll own and control all of them.
Right, so Douglas entities will own all of them. But the best way to explain that was exactly what Paul just explained. And understand, for instance, with the CubeSmart, which we're going to talk about further in a minute, that's a franchise. It's a national franchise. And they're going to have that in a different name, of course, but still a Douglas entity. Same thing for the other properties. And Jerome, to answer your question, as it relates to building 2, it's already on an existing, its own existing parcel. So it doesn't make sense to put them all together.
Well, the parking, it would resolve the.
Well, the parking's right there. So the parking's very easy through cross easements, depending on, how ownership is held. That's not something that's unusual at all, particularly in a site like this.
Dan, do you know if a cross easement already exists on that, since it's
I
already?
don't, don't, Tim. It wouldn't surprise me that it does. Simply, it was because it's been there for quite some time.
Right.
We will look at that and determine if there's something that may already be in place.
Right.
You also have a non-conforming building for setback along the west side, I believe.
I'm sure. I mean,
Which would be eliminated if you did annex.
Yeah, but it's non-conforming.
Correct. But that would then be, the non-conformity would then be eliminated.
Right, but again, for purposes of financing and keeping them separate, we would like to try to keep them separate as they currently exist now and will remain. If we don't go forward with the project, it's still going to stay that way. You have other questions for us, David or Jerome?
The parking was the main question that I had, and I appreciate the clarification on that. I think that the other comments that we, just procedurally speaking for the benefit of the Planning Commission, a zoning application, a zoning permit application has been submitted for this use. And where it stands is that we had provided a review of that application, but we did recommend bringing this in front of the Planning Commission for review for the purpose of revising the last record plan so that this change of use and any parking considerations, access considerations could be resolved. And so that's what sort of brought us to this point. So that's all I really had as far as questions and comments from my end. Jerome may have a few more comments from his last review.
Yes, in my review letter, I did issue a number of the comments that were relative to off-street parking and loading, which if you go with what the applicant is proposing with the cross easements for parking and loading, yes, they would be eliminated. But yeah, those are primarily the comments that were addressed in comments 5, 6, and 5 and 6 of the review letter.
Would you like to go through the rest of the comments as well?
I think that those are pretty much easy to resolve.
Yeah, I think they are too. Yeah.
As part of the preliminary/final land development plan.
So what we would be looking for tonight and requesting would be a conditional approval this evening to allow us to address those plans, those comments in the review letter, so that we can get moving forward. For the Planning Commission, just so you know, we did apply for, I think David alluded to this already, and I believe actually we received the zoning permit to start working on this project back in the spring, early summer. And we were just waiting to come here before the Planning Commission to go through some of these issues for the revised plan of record. We have a tenant that's ready, that's chomping at the bit to try to get into the site, and they're ready to start the construction as soon as we can once we get the approval. So we'd be asking for a conditional approval this evening to allow us to make the changes to address the comments in the review letter and proceed.
And Dan, just to clarify, this would be for the GoPuff plan site only. It would not address the CubeSmart or the
Right, the
concept
CubeSmart we'll
plan.
talk about, CubeSmart we'll talk about separately after we get through with this one.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you, Scott.
No
What are
problem.
we at with the balance of sewage flows?
Well, certainly we know that this site certainly has capacity and had capacity. We're hoping that the city can help us determine the total amount of capacity that was available. But we, understand that the CubeSmart capacity would be certainly 1 EDU at best. And the Three Rivers would not be significantly more. It is really a takeout facility.
Yeah, Scott, did you provide that narrative? I think we talked about that before, and it seems reasonable that the building would probably have less than 1 EDU, and you can automatically assume 1 EDU on an existing lot. I don't know if you were going to address that or not. I don't think I've seen that yet.
No, that was going to be part of our response to the overall comment letter. We would include that as a package to submit back to you.
Well, let's not talk about building D yet.
No, I'm still talking about GoPuff.
No, we're just talking about GoPuff.
All right, building 2.
Right, that's right, existing building 2. That's
right. That's yeah. We're even thinking about less than 1 EDU there because of the nature of that business. But we have to see a narrative with the justification.
No problem.
We did submit a narrative, by the way, Tim, relating to the GoPuff. I don't know that it specifically addressed the sewer, but we will make sure that gets addressed.
Right, you got converted into flow, right?
Yep.
Yep.
I'll convert that narrative into flow amounts and get you a total for an EDU.
We might need some explanation on Three Rivers use because that might be something that's a little bit more unique.
Yeah, because I'm hearing restaurant sit down, so I understand what Jerome is saying there.
And I'm also hearing restaurant preparation and takeout.
Yeah.
Okay. That we will address that and give you a clear direction and assign the gallons per day associated with each of the uses.
Because it still may not need a planning module, but if you think it's going to go over 1 EDU, let me know. We got to start researching water records on that site to make sure we understand what the previous use was at the time that the Act 537 plan was in effect. And do you know offhand what was there in 2012? That's when the Act 537 plan was last updated. So if we know it's going over 1 EDU, the next check is to see, well, what was flowing in 2012 when the plan was approved? And then I guess the other thing is, and I doubt that there is one, is there an approved planning module? Because I doubt that we're going to be able to find one. I don't know if you have one in your records, Scott.
No, I've been looking for it. I have not been able to find anything.
Yeah, because I know Spots has a lot of history on this, so you might have something lurking in the files of SSM that might indicate it. But I would be surprised if I would find something. There might be there, but I wouldn't hold my breath on it.
Yeah, I've had somebody researching it, but they haven't been able to find anything yet. But we're still on it.
Doesn't surprise me.
In 2012, this was still the home improvement store.
Was it?
Which
okay.
Only had 3 or 4 employees.
Okay.
And bathrooms were not accessible to the public.
Still, they may have had an approved EDU in a planning module for this lot. So that's what we'd like to see.
Yep, understood.
Okay.
Okay, anything else from staff?
I guess I have to bring it up because we have to do it to everybody. Railroad Street is a private street, so it's a driveway. Do you have an HOP? Do you have an approved HOP? I would think you probably do because Spring Street is SR 2014.
Again, it was approved as part of the original project for the Reading Station. I'll try to find a copy of it.
Right.
But I may have to approach PennDOT about that as well.
Okay. Okay. Very good.
All right. Very good. Anything from the commissioners on building 2?
Chair, this is Will. This is yet another parcel. I recently lamented the lack of redevelopment. Somebody asked me about it, and I said there was a plan several years ago to make it into a restaurant. So I'm glad to see something going on here, and look forward to seeing this project develop further.
Yeah, thank you. We're trying. I mean, we want to try to get something moving. That's part of why we're here this evening, to start making some things happen at this site.
I do have a question. Thank you. I do have a question for the city. I remember, Mr. Chairman, you had raised this 7 years ago about the erosion on the walls there on adjacent to Spring Street, right near the subway, the Spring Street subway there. I don't know if that has any bearing on this. It might be some concern for the public. I don't know if there's been any follow through or plan on that. I mean, the building sits on top of, at a higher grade, and there's those concrete retaining walls there on Spring Street, and where they flood.
Yeah. But know what you're referring to.
Yeah, I'm saying for the public to understand, right?
So
I don't
that's
think it's not a responsibility of the applicant. I'm just wondering if the city had any. Did you get any response on that, Mr. Chairman? Was there any follow through or plan? Was it engineers satisfying as it is, or?
Yeah, actually, that was something that Deb Hogue was supposed to follow up on, and then she left the city.
Yeah, it's going to be in my camp now. And I don't have an answer. I completely agree that retaining wall is an absolute mess and needs to be addressed. I guess I'll research it from my end. I guess to the design team for GoPuff and Three Rivers, is the condition of that wall, the structural condition, going to play in any way into the structural integrity of the building?
No, we don't believe so.
Yeah, I guess that's a question for Scott and maybe Phil. But you can see that the retaining wall largely, I just had it up on the screen. Let me pull it back up there again. The retaining wall is largely down below that area where we were showing on the concept plan, Tim, with some parking, which we aren't necessarily developing at the moment.
If you go further up the hill toward the intersection, you'll see, I think that's what Will's talking about. It gets worse as you go up the hill. It gets shorter. Go the other way. Yep, that way. Yeah, there. Now that's what he's talking about.
Right in this area.
Yep.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's interesting.
That's in drastic need of repair.
Yeah.
And I don't have a response to that other than I'll look into that. It's a good question. And I would just like to be able to work with Scott to see if that is going to bear in on any
makes sense.
Of the improvement of the building itself.
Yeah.
It appears to be
And
it's in
even
the
if
right
it
of way.
doesn't, I'm thinking maybe it probably does not, but I think to reassure everybody, but that if an engineer would take a look at that and make whatever the city has to do. And the same would be true on the other side. I don't know if Norfolk Southern owns that part or what. I can't remember who owns I know the city has the subway, but.
Yeah, that would be Norfolk Southern.
Yeah, but the same is true over there as well. If there's any plan. I mean, the lighting has been improved. We can't do anything about the flooding, but whatever we can do would be great. Thank you.
Yeah. The other thing, Scott, too, it appears from your drawing, your property line runs behind the retaining wall, and that the retaining wall would be in the right of way. So I'll be checking on my end too. If you could check on your end, that'd be good.
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Very good. Anything else from the other commissioners? Okay, let me see here. I did have one thing on this particular thing. Oh, I forgot to look, Dan. Are those loading docks still there? On that building?
So I'm going to defer to Scott on that question. I'm not sure. So let me just go. I can I can zoom in here on the aerial. Hold
On
on.
building 2,
Yeah, on building 2.
Yeah, so let me just go back in here.
I forget if during the renovations, those docks were removed.
there are no direct docks in the front where the parking spaces are. But the only location that we've been able to find is they're on the raised platform area.
Around on the other side.
On the other
Right.
side.
Right.
Yeah.
But they
okay.
are not
That was-
accessible at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was concerned about the, what would that be? The north facade of the building. There used to be 2 loading docks there.
Yeah,
But it's funny how I only lived a block up the street and I completely forgot that, that those were removed.
Huh.
So that's good. That answers my question. The other thing that we were talking about today is that, there needs to be some discussion. If you're not going to put in the parking as proposed on the plan, on this beautiful plan right away, overview plan you have here, you're going to need some sort of separation, even if it's just this grassy area with the 3 trees from Norfolk Southern. To kind of give people a visual that parcel is separated from Norfolk Southern and that people shouldn't be going on Norfolk Southern's property.
So you're talking down by the tracks. Is that what you're
Yeah.
talking about? Mr. Bill?
Yeah.
Yep. So let me just see if I can pop that up again. So yeah, so I think I understand what you're asking for.
Yeah, because right now it just looks like a sea of concrete down there.
So down in this area.
Yeah. And I think you can see, you can kind of see that there's this large concrete area on the east side of the building.
Right
And then
here.
there's like a driveway there.
Yeah,
That
it looks-
driveway used to be for Norfolk Southern to get from one building to another.
Right.
But most of that's owned by Norfolk Southern. And people don't know that.
Right.
There has to be some sort of divide there so that people aren't walking on Norfolk Southern's property.
I would recommend that they consider using that east side of the property for loading.
Yeah, and definitely the east side of the property would be great for loading.
Dan, can you pull up the property plan again
I can. You just
after
take a look.
this? After this,
So there, I think this is the site.
right?
It gets me back as far to the corner as I can get back there. And you're right, you can see that there was a driveway that kind of goes back over. And you're looking for some kind of designation that closes off that area so people aren't walking back in that area.
Right, because
Yeah.
Norfolk Southern gets pretty upset.
Yeah, yes, they do.
And since I never wanted to bring it up before because there was never really anything done on this property. But now that, you know, we have the potential that we have customers there who are not familiar, it's probably the right time to do it.
Yes.
All right, yeah, so there's where the property line ends and the Norfolk Southern property line.
And you can see this is kind of the driveway that we were just talking
Yeah.
about right through here. And here's the property line right there.
Yeah.
Could that be abandoned as part of this project as well?
I don't think they have any real rights on that, in that area right now. So I don't think anything has to be abandoned.
Especially crossing their Norfolk Southern's property.
Right.
So it's just a remnant left over from when they had the whole property. and
Right.
Used access.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just more of it's more of a safety thing and also an aesthetics thing. I mean, you would like your place to look nice too.
So to the Douglas team, you guys understand any issue with trying to put something back there to kind of designate that as an area where it's not for pedestrians and other people to go?
That's no problem.
Yeah.
No issue.
Yep.
No issue.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And that was my two questions.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay, now I'm a little confused, Dan. This, according to my notes, this is being presented as a sketch plan.
No, this one, so it's not, again, I think there was some question about where we were going with this. What we're trying to do is get an approval, conditional approval tonight for a plan for the revised plan of record, I think is what it was being called. Is that what it says there?
That's correct.
Right. Revised plan of record.
But you haven't submitted a revised plan of record.
Scott, where are we with?
Well, we submitted a sketch plan for the overall property. Based on the review from Jerome, it was split out into two separate reviews. One for the GoPuff, which is basically what you're looking at here now. And then the other one is a sketch plan for review based on the CubeSmart, which is basically just a sketch at this point.
We never saw this plan before.
Correct. We know that. We talked about that a moment ago. But what we're saying is that we just got your review letter, and what we're trying to do is we want to be able to use this as going to be the base that's going to address those concerns and those questions, so that we can move forward. What's happening is because of the timing of the GoPuff project, and again, the building permits have actually already been issued. We're trying to move that forward so we don't lose that tenant. That was started back in, I think it was, Phil, help me out. It was sometime in spring, I believe.
That's correct. Design started in spring, permit was filed for in July of this year, and permit was issued August 3rd of 2021.
Right. So what we're trying to do is we want to try to move this forward so we can get the work done and get GoPuff in there. So we don't lose a tenant. It's a relatively easy review and upgrades to this plan. It's an existing site, existing property. We're trying to reuse the property that's there now to get some tenants in and start moving this project forward.
I'm going to ask for comments from the rest of the commission on this one, because a formal submission has not been made. This is not a formal submission.
Understood.
So we cannot act on something that has not been formally presented.
Well, you can act on something to say you need to submit a plan that will comply with those comments in Jerome's review letter. And that's what we're asking you to do.
I'll ask for comments from the commission as to how you feel about this. All right.
So I guess I can comment on it. I mean, earlier we didn't act on a request because they didn't have engineered drawings. They had hand drawings that didn't meet all the requirements. And here we don't even have a submission. And we're being asked to act on it. It would be setting a bad precedent, I believe.
I believe the same thing.
Yeah, this is Lee. I concur totally with Bob. I'm just at a loss as to how to respond to spending 3/4 of an hour going through what I thought was a sketch plan and find out that, oh no, we'll meet what needs to be done, but give us the go ahead and the approval now. It's a terrible precedent to set, and I'm not in favor of that at all.
I'm afraid I agree. And it says not, excuse me. It says nothing about us being unfavorable to the plan in any way whatsoever. We just need an actual plan, and we need staff to review an actual plan and give us the recommendations, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I believe I believe that is correct. And the note here from Jerome says it's just an application. He wasn't reviewing an actual plan. So we are going to go with what is on the agenda. And we have reviewed this as a sketch plan, and there will be no action on the plan.
All right. So I will ask at this point, then the next plan is the sketch plan in the CubeSmart. Paul, do you want to go further down that road tonight or
No,
discuss that?
nope, not interested.
Okay. So I think that's it for us then tonight, gentlemen.
Okay, well, we do hope to see you next month with the submission. And I'm sure it will go smoothly, since most of many of the things have been taken care of, but we do have to see all of Jerome's comments on a piece of paper that is ready for us to sign.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, good night.
Okay. Okay, and they didn't want to go over the CubeSmart, but another great proposal. So hopefully we'll see that soon.
And one thing with Building D, I just wanted to bring up that we were not sure of was the use of the ground floor versus the second and third floor of Building D. The ground floor is occupied by is it Family Dollar?
Yes.
And we're not sure if that building was going to stay or if that use was going to stay or not. That plan was much further along than the GoPuff plan because that was formally submitted. So yeah, that was the primary question with Building B.
Very good. I'm sure Dan and his team will take care of that. And we will hopefully see them next month and get this resolved. We will now move on to 601 Penn Street, Heights Real Estate Advisors. Sketch plan for proposed mixed-use development designed by Plato Studios.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Mark Cuck on behalf of the developer Heights Real Estate Advisors. I know the time is late this evening, but it's my pleasure to basically introduce our team to you this evening that's here with us to participate in this discussion. We have Mr. Alon Kadzai, Andrew Goldsman is here as well, Plato Marinakos, Peter de Obermont, and we also have a special guest this evening with us, which is Mr. John Loyak, who, as you all know, is the president of Alvernia. We are here to talk to you this evening about a very unique opportunity in a unique building, which is the 601 Penn Street building. Much to my surprise, and this building is pretty much vacant except for the Santander branch office on the first floor. And it came to my client's attention, and we have been working with city staff. And I want to just basically say very strong thank you to Mr. Paris and Ms. Krim and the other members of the city with respect to this project. You know, they've been very helpful in directing our attention and getting us onto this planning commission agenda. We have a sketch plan that we have submitted. And I realize it's a very simple sketch plan, but we'd like you to get some feedback for us on it. And at this point, Mr. Goldsman, I think will step in. Andrew, you have a bit of a presentation plan this evening, is that right?
Yes, let me see if I could share my screen.
Are you getting that, Mark?
Absolutely. So Mr. Goldsman has presented this executive summary. Essentially, we're talking about the 601 Penn Street property. And I'm assuming that you're all familiar with that particular building. It's pretty much right in the heart of the city. It is located in the historic district, as I recall. And the existing configuration, it's essentially the retail and the old outside in or commercial on the first floor and second floor. And then the balance of the property is essentially vacant office space at this time. Andrew, do you want to jump into the next screen
Yes.
and the discussion?
So thank you everyone, for making the time last minute to hear from us, and also want to thank John Loyak from Alvernia for jumping on. We bought another property nearby that you'll probably be hearing from us on in the near future, and in a conversation about that asset, John encouraged us to kick the tires a little bit more on Santander. We did, and that kind of brought us here today. So something that we were very kind of surprised to find, given our excitement for everything that Alvernia is doing and the development along Penn Street, was the very sudden essentially abandonment's a bad word, but the abrupt departure from 601 Penn by Santander. As I'm sure everyone is familiar with the history of the building. It's a legacy asset for the bank, that they acquired when I think it was through Citizens, this acquisition of Citizens, and the property is been kept in a really immaculate condition, which is a positive, a real positive thing, through Santander's ownership and the management there by JLL. So what we're hoping to do here is very quickly fill the void left by the potentially thousands of people a day that would walk through that building and that campus, by converting and repositioning it to a mix of efficient apartment units, some of which may be designated as like a short-term hotel stay units, and a large majority of which would be marketed towards Alvernia students who just a couple of blocks away will hopefully with that walk to campus will hopefully drive a lot of development along Penn Street between 4th and 6th, with kind of the bookends being 401 and 601 Penn. And we're looking to keep the a good portion of the commercial. Santander wants to keep the branch there given the proximity to the arena, and we're have a few ideas in mind and have been working with folks locally to try to develop that commercial use. Medical is something that's come up a lot in our conversations with various folks at the city and locally, and we're going to run down kind of the best and highest use for that space. Currently, the ground floor is totally, it's only occupied by Santander. The atrium and the restaurant space, on the second floor have been vacant for a while. The retail space, kind of right along Penn, if you can see my cursor, and then along kind of the corridor, adjacent to Penn, has been empty also for a long time. There's a little cafe that's been empty for a while, and then the majority of before Santander's departure, the majority of this commercial space on the second floor had been vacant, and now with the rest of the building, that space continues to go unused. So the average kind of floor plate looks like this now. The furniture is in place. It's a little eerie inside. They packed up pretty quickly, and the
like I said before, the positive thing here is that the space is in really, really fantastic condition. And the layout presents, in a really positive way for our redevelopment. So for the first floor, we're proposing, keeping the Santander branch. One thing that we're talking to Santander about is they may want their own entrance directly onto Penn or onto Sixth. We would then develop the remaining portion of that first floor into another retail use. We've been speaking to some potential retail tenants, and there's a desire for some sort of loading dock. I know that is could be controversial as it relates to Penn Street, but we're hoping to figure out something creative on that front as well. And then the second floor, you have this is just showing the core as potential kind of medical office space, with Drexel across the river and everything that Alvernia is doing. It could make a lot of sense for some sort of medical space, and that's something that the folks at City Hall have relayed to us that they'd be interested to see as well. This is going to be, this floor plate that you see here is really proposed to be a majority of the building. So floors 3 through 10. We have 8 proposed residential floors, 30 units a floor, 26 studio units per floor, 4 2-bedroom units per floor. So a total of 240 units. I think that, that would definitely provide Alvernia with the units that they would need to house the folks that are coming domestically and abroad for their college town campus. Then also all of the kind of derivative demand staff for local business that's going to develop as kind of the city becomes a place that folks live. We would be essentially trying to keep the core the same, to kind of minimize, construction, in the property, and the floor plates are fairly open. The column lines and kind of the existing structure, Plato could speak to, really presents itself well for a conversion. It's one of the things that attracted us to the property. As I'm sure we'll get to know each other better. We've in our business in Pennsylvania, we've really focused on the rehabilitation of assets like this that are underutilized. We just recently finished the conversion of the Public Ledger building, which is on 6th and Chestnut in Philadelphia. That's 228 residential units. That building had been, a blight on Independence Mall, really since they cleaned it up almost 50 years ago, and now it's filled and occupied. And we delivered units to our first tenants 18 months after our initial acquisition. We're also in the final phase of redeveloping West Philadelphia High School, which is 43rd and Walnut in Philadelphia, which is going to be 400 units when complete. And we purchased the old Fleetwood Metal Body building in Fleetwood, which we're in the process of getting our approvals on for about 100 residential units there. So we have the experience and excitement to make this happen.
Any questions?
Just to kind of clarify our ask, we're looking for guidance and any sort of conditional approvals when it comes to use, which when you talk about dormitory, residential, hotel, type of use, that obviously implicates parking. We have the parking structure next door, which has a fair amount of availability given Santander's departure based on our conversations with the parking authority. And we want to avoid unnecessary cash outlays and having to lease spots unnecessarily. We're hopeful that there isn't a high automobile usage, especially with the frequency of international students we would expect here. and hopefully the increased walkability of Penn Street and having a lot of amenities with very close by, introducing things like, car sharing and other solutions, along those lines. And, we also, in case, that parking structure is ever redeveloped into something else because it becomes prime real estate, we definitely don't want, our approvals tied to renting spots that may not exist forever. So, some sort of flexibility there is something that, we're going to need as well. So that's kind of our ask tonight. We know that this is, the commission's only been presented with the sketch plan that you have copies of, which include these floor plans. But we're hoping for as much relief as could be provided tonight, and if absence of relief, kind of guidance on next steps to get back here in short order and get to keep this moving forward.
I'll just jump back in there, Andrew. Thank you. So I'll pose a question to David and to Jerome. I know we came in with a very, very short time frame and did not anticipate we would have a review letter for this evening. Are there any preliminary comments from you gentlemen that we could possibly discuss at this point?
Yes, you have seen my review letter dated November 20th?
We have not, no.
Okay, there's a draft review letter that I submitted to staff, and one of the things we could possibly look at, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dave and Naomi, is the possibility of adaptive reuse for this building,
right?
Which would be the first and second floor being occupied by commercial uses. First floor, obviously, commercial use and retail with the bank, and then the second floor being medical office, and then floors 3 through 10 being the residential component, which would be permissible by special exception. There are some conflicts with the design criteria that's established for residential units and occupancy. So we'd have to go through those with you to determine what zoning variances may be necessary to accomplish that feat, and it can be done. I think you've gone through, or Alvernia has gone through a similar proposal with with 2 other buildings, I believe. So it's something that I think would work for this building. There's also then the provisions that are relative to residential use and occupancy of apartment units. If this was the classification of the uses on floors 3 through 10, and again, we can resolve those possibly through the zoning hearing board in terms of relief via the special exception or zoning variance application. You did mention there's quite a number of issues relative to off-street, just the site accessibility, off-street parking, and off-street loading, which we've identified, some of the issues that we've discussed. Certainly with a facility of this size, we could look at the satellite parking option on other areas within the city that can be utilized for parking for the residents, as well as for the retail use and medical office spaces. So that's something that would need to be addressed not only with the zoning hearing board, but also with the planning commission. And I think this early dialogue will help you out quite a bit once you start moving in a direction that you see that you can or cannot do this, what's being proposed. But I think you can make this something that's you can accomplish. Hopefully it's not something you need next week.
That's always the question, isn't it, Jerome?
Yeah.
Are you able to share, any of the variances that you're coming up with? Are there any showstoppers in there that you think are very difficult?
I'll let Dave and Naomi comment on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would. So the main item, just to reiterate, yes, I do think that this can be presented through adaptive reuse, as we had discussed in our previous meetings.
Right.
Conceptually, and that, of course, is a special exception use. It does require the zoning hearing board to provide that relief. The fact that you're here presenting this to the planning commission, of course, is very beneficial, just because when this does go to the zoning hearing board, you'll be able to speak to the planning commission's initial thoughts on the project, even though at this stage and tonight, there's no actual action that can be taken by the planning commission. All of that said, the main items that I think we would want to pay attention to is just of course, the number of units and the fact that the number of studios appears that it would exceed the max per floor. So that would actually require a variance over the, so the special exception would get you there for the use, but for the fact that you have more than the allotted number of studios. And I think that, you would need to speak to, as I've heard you say, the concept is focused on this integration with Alvernia University and international students, and your justifications for that would certainly be part of what you're presenting to the zoning hearing board. The one other item, let's see, well, two more big items. The next one, of course, is parking. We've discussed this before, whether you'd be using a lease agreement with the parking authority under the zoning ordinance as it stands today. That would require that those parking spaces be provided essentially into perpetuity as long as the use is in operation. And I understand that what you're looking for is something less than that, and that would require zoning relief if you were to get some kind of a relief from that duration component.
Understood.
The other comment is just with regard to this this loading area and the curb cut onto Penn Street. I was just wondering if you could speak to the need for that, and not only the need for it in general, because I understand this building does not have any vehicular access, if I'm not mistaken, but also as to why the preference for doing it in that particular location as opposed to anywhere else that might be more or less suitable on the building. Can you speak to that loading dock a little bit?
Yeah, so I think the 6th Street side, these are the existing duped existing plans from Santander, which you could see the branch kind of occupies the entire kind of 6th Street facing portion. And that's going to be there for at least, 5 years, based on what our contract terms, the final terms are going to be. So when we've been speaking to retailers, the question that is being raised is, well, how do we load in inventory if it's food? They're, they have to worry about not only getting inventory out, but also, a lot of efficient, daily almost garbage disposal. And then if it's some sort of, actual retailer, again, we've had a few initial conversations because something, and part of the reason that we're not stuck, but we need some guidance is that, almost every kind of major retail partner that we've spoken to has expressed concern over, their ability to efficiently, stock, the ultimate store here. The total square footage available and kind of the main tower space, could potentially, reach about 10,000 square feet, and including kind of areas of the lobby we need to carve out for the residential portions and potential hotel portions. And that's, they need to move a lot of inventory in order to satisfy those requirements. So, that's really this is based on feedback. This was, I don't think when we had our initial conversation with David and his colleagues that we brought up the loading dock, we were not aware it was going to be a real requirement until we had some of those initial conversations. But, it seems like that's what, a major retailer is going to require. And I think that's what Penn Street needs to attract. And unfortunately, with the pavilion behind the building in kind of this direction, the only frontage is Penn and 6th, and 6th being occupied leaves Penn.
On street loading designated area on Penn?
There's
no designated, but that can happen if there's a request for it. Public Works together with the Reading Parking Authority would look at that to see if there would be advisable to put in a loading zone or 20-minute parking or something like that to serve the same purpose.
Is there something there now, though?
It's a cutout. So there's a cutout on Penn Street where you can do parallel parking out of the traffic lane. There's about 4 or 6 spaces there on the north side.
Yeah, it looked like there was a truck only space or maybe 2 spaces there, but that was from a street view from 2019. I'm not sure if that's still active.
That's not a designated bus stop spot, is it?
Could be a handicap spot, actually.
And I saw that in the street view imagery as well. There's also at least one handicap spot a little farther down. It might be 2 spaces also.
But that's the way Public Works handles it, is we get a request from the adjoiner, usually for either a loading or a timed parking zone. And then we look into it, investigate, and make recommendation.
And obviously the 2 other obvious kind of needs are construction, and then also obviously you're gonna have move-ins and move-outs.
Yeah, I was going to say, would it be exclusively, my question to you would be exclusively for retail? Or would it be also available for the residential?
The kind of issue that has raised this to one of the things we want to address initially with the commission tonight is, the demands of potential retail partners. And, obviously the need of eventual residents, and then also the need of construction is also driving this. I think that it's probably less stressful to have, timed, in a lot of our city projects, to have time move in and move out slots, and an associated loading dock makes things a lot easier for folks moving in, especially if it's a new place. So, it makes it, a lot more hospitable, and then you avoid kind of, the unsightly furniture boxes, thrown across the sidewalk in front of the building.
We had that same discussion with College Place too, down the street. Yes, agreed.
They're furnished, but we're going to definitely have furnished units, but some folks are going to want their own. So I think they definitely have less volume, and I won't speak to their specific issue, but here, where we definitely anticipate a large portion of the units having folks bringing their own furniture, or at least a lot of personal items, which is to be expected.
Tim, with this segment of Penn Street, would that be exclusively under city control?
Well, you mean as far as the right of way? Yeah, I mean, it's all right of way up to the building front. So that would be, if it were a loading dock, we'd have a driveway. It would be, you treat it just like you would, and I believe you can do that. Penn Street sometimes has special conditions, and I'd have to look into that.
Okay. David, you raised that for a reason. Do you have any heartburn there, or just curious?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking about it. So I did check the Penn Square overlay district, and it appears that only applies between 6th and 2nd Streets. So the zoning prohibition on new curb cuts does not appear to me that it would apply here. However, that said, I mean, this is a heavy pedestrian corridor. And so I'm just going immediately to conflicts with the pedestrian who's, we're sort of inviting them to this courtyard, which is adjacent, and this corridor, which is, there's a farmer's market across the street and all these things. And are we going to be adequately providing for their safety if we turn this into not only loading spaces that are parallel to the building, but also a curb cut that would allow for a vehicle to actually come in there and access the building? I mean, I understand the need. I just wanted to raise it now, just so that everybody looking at this can provide those initial comments.
David, this is Lee Olson. Back in time when this building was proposed, the numbers didn't pencil out based on the existing geometry of the street grid. And as we know, Penn Street was narrowed to make room for this building to sit, because the corners do not match at 6th and Penn what's at 4th and Penn. So I think the initial reaction that I have of adding more confusion, congestion, and pedestrian scare of walking the street in front of a loading dock, it happens all the time in major metropolitan areas. I lived in New York City, and you just had to watch when you were walking. I mean, it is just, maybe timed access, controlled access is a way, but the only way into that building for service is where that loading dock is located. Everything else, the building is completely landlocked.
Right.
And, you know, something, I don't know, looking to the future positively, obviously, if passenger rail returns, you know, 2 blocks away, there's going to be even, you know, really block and a half almost, there's going to be even more rail traffic. So, you know, hopefully we could, you know, mimic some of the safety measures that, you know, are just a block and a half away and be able to, you know, keep folks safe and follow the city's lead there on measures to make that happen.
Yeah, as a member of this commission, I first of all like the idea of repurposing an existing building in the downtown. My problem here is one of incredibly poor timing. Here we are at 9 o'clock at night, looking at a fantastic idea for repurposing a building. And I would like to caution our staff and consultants in the future, when these building projects come to us, we need to maybe look at doing another meeting where we go into a working session, because there's so many moving parts here.
Right.
That I think we need to give it all the consideration it is due. These are very good ideas. These are the very things that are saving the downtowns up and down the eastern seaboard that are suffering from poor planning and poor sales. And here we have a golden opportunity to do something with buildings in the downtown to further organize and create that critical mass that downtowns don't have, and we'd have the ingredients here to do it. And I certainly support taking time in the future as a member of this commission to do a workshop specifically of this and look at more detail with our staff to answer your questions effectively. I think it's a wonderful idea. I am glad that we have the foresight of leadership to do this, but we're just cutting you shy at 9 o'clock at night. I mean, I certainly want to spend time walking the site, looking at the planning that you've done, and the insight as to how this fits and knits into the downtown. It's a great idea.
Mr. Olson, I greatly appreciate those comments, and I think I can speak on behalf of the developer that, you know, we'd welcome that opportunity if in fact the commission was willing to put together some kind of workshop session. And I realize, you know, we've got the holidays, but I think, you know, speaking for Heights, that they would make themselves available to the extent we can. So we're thrilled with that observation. Thank you.
Well, and
Thank you.
and this is coming right on the heels of the city and its process of having a downtown plus master plan.
Right.
This would be a perfect, you know, now the pieces of the puzzle are starting to come together. So let's make the picture the right picture this time. So I would certainly want to make myself available to do that.
We appreciate that. Thank you very much.
If I may, Lee, just to add to that Downtown Plus, just to make sure that the design team is aware, from Public Works, Cindy Kastner is the downtown coordinator now. She is the DID of the latest age here now, and there's a project that she's starting that completely surrounds the north side and the east side of this building. It's that courtyard. It's actually a park that's owned by the Reading Redevelopment Authority, and she is in the process now of I think awarding a contract to do some substantial improvements with some grant money she's got. So it would be good to just touch base with Cindy Kastner and what the plans are for those improvements, since it does hug up right against the north and east side of your building.
All right.
Well,
Tim,
then I have to respond as a member of this planning commission. Why the hell aren't we seeing that in the design stage as opposed to contract time? That is poor timing. It's a good idea, but now we're going to be, you know, we won't have any oversight, insight, or input into what makes the most sense. So you're telling me that there's a contract ready to be let, so something's been designed?
For improvements to the park, this park area this is where the brick area with the
oh yes, I know it well. Yes.
Yeah, it extends actually all the way up to Court Street and extends down to 6th Street.
Well, is it Is it repairing what's there or is it repurposing with?
You
the
know,
different-
Lee, I think it's just to upgrade it in some way. I don't know if it's just to repair things or maybe to put some landscaping in. I'm not sure, but I do know that there is some improvements. To be honest with you, I haven't even seen the design on that. Cindy Kastner is the expert on this.
Oh, okay.
Can you, hi, it's Plato. Do you mind putting me in touch with her and I'll reach out?
Yeah, not a problem.
Tim, I just sent Mr. Cuck the contact information.
Yeah, I've got
thank
Mark's
you.
contact. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
if Mark could be the contact, I can get that to Mark.
Can I also ask a really quick question? How do they load the building now, like for the loading? I know it's late at night now and they just do it off the street right now, off the sidewalk or the loading zone?
Yes, all of the above. There's a curb cut along Penn Street where there could be 3 or 4 vehicles pull in to drop off and load, unload. And 90% of the time is full of the mechanical and electrical and plumbing contractors that are working in other buildings.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
We'd welcome any other comments from the members of the commission briefly. I know it's late and we understand that. I know you had a full agenda this evening. So if there's anything else, we'd love to hear it.
Mr. Chairman, this is Will. I'll try to be brief for here at this hour. First of all, we always appreciate seeing a sketch plan. To follow up on the question that was just asked, I remember there was an article some months ago about doing repairs to that courtyard. So maybe I think there was some state grant money or something to that. Maybe that's what that's about. But we should be apprised of what it is about.
Okay, well, I can get the information from Cindy,
Thanks.
or maybe even have her show up, but I can get the information and give you an update on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that the applicant brought up car sharing. I've been trying to promote downtown car sharing and also bike sharing, and it could be potentially helpful, especially now with the prospect of the return of passenger rail service. The question for the zoning administrator, this requirement of the lease for the off-site parking in perpetuity, that doesn't mean locking a party into a contract in perpetuity, right? I mean, would based on past experience, we'd be satisfied with a lease that's renewable on a per annum basis. Is that right?
Yes, I mean, that's correct. It's not necessarily under the zoning ordinance. The way that it is worded is that the ongoing zoning approval is tied to providing adequate parking under the ordinance. So if you were to lease the parking from one facility for the first year and then change to another facility in the second year, or
Right.
later obtain the relief, there still are ways to do that. So no, you're not locked into the same parties to the agreement.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the applicant's concern, but downtown we have a lot of flexibility there. So just one quick question, then a summarizing comment. Is there any storage proposed? Supplemental storage? I don't see any. I see laundry.
Yeah, there's a large basement area that's fairly flexible with a freight elevator that serves the first 3 levels, including the basement. So that's definitely could be considered.
I couldn't
for the
remember if it was
basement.
the basement. Okay, great.
And then in terms of the parking, and we're going to address this, definitely with the zoning hearing board as well. But there's a positive, part of our business is we build to hold, and if we were looking to build and quickly offload the asset, this wouldn't be as much of a concern for us. But long term, thinking decades in the future, to the extent that there becomes an availability issue with parking, kind of the need goes away or severely reduces, and there's no law change. We don't want our use permit or our ability to use the building for residential to be tied to parking if then there's a lack of availability or it's just not commonplace anymore. So that's a point that we're definitely going to seek some clarity on for a project of this magnitude.
Yeah, that makes sense. We were just trying to be flexible, as I guess the point.
Yep.
Just to summarize, when this is my common theme tonight, yet another property that I've been thinking could use some redevelopment. That when this building opened in the 1970s, it was exciting because this seemed to be the urban answer to the suburban pedestrian mall, with its mixed use on the first 2 floors, its accessibility both from Penn Street as well as to that wonderful courtyard on grade, and with its terrific views of Penn Square. And it's been sad to see what's been happening with it, declining over the years. And so I'm looking forward to this project and appreciate the applicant bringing forth this sketch plan. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Sinfisi. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Do you have anything, Bob?
No, I think we were pretty thorough on this one, so.
Okay, great. Yeah, I agree with Lee that if we want to come together and do more work on this, I'm certainly open to that. I just want to make a note that normally the way this works is that of course, in this case, the zoning hearing board can't do too much, but we always have the applicant go to the zoning hearing board first, just in case the zoning hearing board requires something that requires major changes to the layout or the drawing. Like I said, here, that's probably not going to be a problem. But during that time, when this goes through the zoning hearing board, the planning commission can definitely take a look at this and go over this more thoroughly and review any concerns.
Commissioner Beeler, we greatly appreciate that, and we'd certainly be looking for any kind of endorsement that the Planning Commission was willing to give as we move through the zoning process. So I anticipate you're going to say that's not tonight, right? But perhaps at the next meeting or some workshop if possible.
So I think the zoning hearing board members, quite a few of them are watching this most likely.
Good.
And they see how positive we are about this. And I think that relates more than us making any recommendation, because technically we can't make a recommendation to them.
I understand.
Hopefully, we could also finalize the draft zoning comments that we have in place. And then just to make sure that internally I'm on the same page as staff. And that could be released soon. And then that way everyone could then appreciate all the zoning comments and issues that might be at hand.
Jerome, I know I've monopolized a lot of your time today. So I appreciate that. And we look forward to those comments as soon as you guys are able to get them to us, because we will turn around and work on those immediately and get the zoning permit application into Mr. Paris and, full speed ahead. That's what we're looking to do here.
Okay, very, very good. Well, thank you for presenting this. We always appreciate someone coming in ahead of time instead of at the last minute, and wanting the world to be turned upside down for their benefit.
We wanted to get the feedback from the Planning Commission as soon as we possibly could, as soon as this project started to become real, and it's very real at this point. So again, thank everybody for their time this evening. I know it's late, so we look forward to seeing you again. Wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Well, thank you, and you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work.
Thank you again. Good
Thank you.
evening, folks.
Very good. Well, okay, we will go on to our other business. Excuse me. We have a number of plan approval reaffirmations and time extension requests. First is the Buttonwood Gateway which Buttonwood Gateway plan is this? Is this the
This is the Habitat.
Habitat for Humanity? That's what I thought. We're asked to reaffirm plan approval until February 21st of 2022. We'll change that.
Yes, correct. Yes, they've made that request. They're working out some details on the that will affect the developer improvement agreement.
Okay. Great. Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Lee Olson.
Okay, in a second.
Second, Bob
Second, Will.
Conklin.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Bob. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Very good. Next plan is 810 Windsor Street. Reaffirm plan approval until February 21st of 2022. 810 Windsor is the used to be part of the outlets, but it's now being made into apartments, as I remember.
That might be
Correct.
916.
Well, this too. It's a similar idea about a block away, but this was also a adaptive reuse that has a on-site parking lot off a Little Cedar and 8th Street.
Yeah. Okay. So do I hear a motion for the plan reaffirmation?
I move to reaffirm the plan.
Okay, and a second?
Lee Olson seconds.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next, we have time extension request for Overlord Real Estate Holdings at 916 North 9th Street until February 22nd of 2022. Do I hear a motion?
Lee Olson moves.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Will. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 The next one's sort of interesting. Extension request for the Medical Arts Building on North 5th Street until May 22nd of 2022. Our normally we only do 90 days, but Naomi looked it up and the MPC says we can extend it for this long. And considering that it's Allen and it's a legal problem, I had no problem with it. So do I hear a motion to extension until May 22nd?
Lee moves.
Okay, in a second? I'll second that. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, all opposed? Very good. Next is the 1010 Elm Daycare Center, an extension request until March 28th of 2022. Do I hear a motion?
Lee Olson moves.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Will. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Next, we have the Prince and Princess Daycare Center at 936 and 938 Penn Street, an extension request until March 28th of 2022.
I move to approve the extension request.
Okay, and a second?
Lee Olson will second.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Lee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Hearing none, we move on. A request extension for Iglesia Pentecostal at 1124 Schuylkill and 1119 Luzerne Streets. Extension request until March 28th of 2022. Do I hear a motion?
Bob Conklin will motion.
Okay, and a second? Okay, I'll second that. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And finally, our favorite one, Supernatural Foods at 243 North 4th Street, an extension request until March 28th of 2022.
I'll
Do I hear a
move.
motion?
I will move.
Okay, thank you, Lee. In a second. Okay, I will second that. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Okay, next on the agenda is the acceptance of the October 26, 2021 meeting minutes. Do you have anything, Will?
Thank you, Mr. I reviewed them, but only for the information because I could not attend last month. So I don't have any.
Nothing glaring, right?
I saw a couple of things. I figured you'd catch them, but very minor, you know.
Okay, I was actually out most of the day with my brother, so I did not get an opportunity to take a look at those. But I'm sure any minor things that'll come up, we can let Naomi know. So do I hear a motion for acceptance of the October 26th meeting minutes?
Lee Olson moves.
And I will second that. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, great.
Mr. Chairman, I did review the September minutes and found 3 minor edits I submitted to Naomi.
Okay, great. And I'm sure that's all what it will be this time also.
Right.
Moving on, just a few announcements. Lee and I attended the first redistricting committee meeting. And it was basically a meeting to get to know each other and go over some questions. I don't know if Lee has any comments.
I have no comments.
Okay. The other thing was I did hand out my notes on the meeting about the transit-oriented design that was hosted by the Greater Reading, I think it was Greater Reading Development Corp. I'm not sure. I know Dave Myers was there, Mr. Weidenheimer was there, Dave Hunter was there. I believe Dave and Naomi were there. So very good meeting.
Yeah, I think that's the Berks Alliance that was sponsoring that.
Yeah, the Berks Alliance, that is correct.
Yeah.
So very good meeting. And we received some follow-up information today in the email for those of us who attended. Any other announcements? I will turn it over to Dave.
All right, I just wanted to share with the Planning Commission members that this is going to be my last meeting with the city. I've accepted a new position, so my last day with the city as an employee will be November 30th. And I just wanted to let you all know and express my appreciation for the patience that you've had with us as we've been trying to keep up with the great problem that we have, which is a very heavy workload due to all the development interest in the city. And I can very confidently say you're in very good hands between Naomi, Tim, Jerome, and of course his extended team that you have to work with. So very grateful for this this time that it's been. I don't want to take much of your time, but I just wanted to let you all know and say thank you.
Wow. Well, David, we're going to miss you. Thank you for all the support that you've given us. You've been an absolute steward of your duties, and you've been a great guy to work with. And I think bringing Naomi on was the start of a good team building. And we're going to miss you, man.
Thanks. Likewise, and I appreciate that.
David, thank you for your service to the city. You've been like a pillar of support for us. We can always rely on your knowledge and expertise and your insight and your commitment always to doing things the right way. It's been much appreciated, and sorry to hear that you'll be leaving us. I wish you all the best. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Dave, good luck in everything you do. We appreciate everything you've done for us. Mentoring us through this and everything that you've done for us. It's just astounding. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, very good. I was able to talk to Dave earlier today. I see that Ernie Schlegel just sent me an email about 601 Penn Street. So I will review that this evening and let you know if I need your expertise from anyone here. Because of course, Ernie is the chair of the redevelopment authority, and we appreciate working with him. So if we have nothing else to come forward, could I hear a motion for adjournment?
Lee Olson moves to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Lee and Will, very good. We are out of order. Everyone have a great Thanksgiving. And once again, just appreciate everybody's hard work. It's just extraordinary what a difference it's made with the staff that we now have.
You
So
bet.
thank you very much.
You bet.
Thanks,
All right,
everyone.
Paris. All right,
Have a nice
Paris,
Thanksgiving.
you're buying the beers at the DoubleTree.
All right. Take care, everybody. Have a happy Thanksgiving.